Bro caught two meteors mid-air, stopped them completely, looked Madara dead in the face, blind, mind you, and sent them back. He crushed Madara Susanoo like a paper cup, smiled and rolled dice. He doesn't need eyes to see you're already dead.
The sky over the Valley of the End was falling. The literal sky was coming down in chunks, burning, screaming, trailing fire across a heaven that had been clear blue 30 seconds ago. The two great statues of Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju, carved into the cliffs for generations, cracked down their centers as gravitational forces no human being should possess, twisted the waterfall between them upward, reversing the flow of nature itself. Water rose, stone fell, and standing in the center of it all, balanced on a slab of rock floating 40 feet above the ruined valley floor, was a 13-year-old boy in a purple kimono. He was blind. He was smiling. And the unconscious body of the last Uchiha was draped over his shoulder like a sack of rice. His name was Naruto Uzumaki. And this is the story of how a dead admiral from another world was reborn into the body of a Jinchuriki, blinded himself at age 7, and proceeded to break the entire shinobi system over his knee, politely. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. Every legend has to start somewhere. This one starts with blood, a kunai, and a boy who decided he had seen enough. Konoha's orphanage district smelled like mildew and old paint. The walls of Naruto Uzumaki's apartment were thin enough to hear the couple next door arguing about grocery prices, and thin enough to hear what the man on the street below shouted up at his window every morning when the sun rose. Demon, monster, beast. The words changed sometimes. The venom behind them stayed constant. Naruto was 7 years old. He sat on the edge of his bed, feet dangling, holding a kunai he had stolen from a training post near the academy. The metal was dull, slightly rusted. It would hurt more than a sharp one, and some part of him understood that, and some other part, a deeper, older, and possibly ancient part, did not care. The dreams had started 3 months ago. They came every night, vivid, whole. A life that was not his, lived in a world that was not this one. Oceans that stretched beyond comprehension. Pirates with bounties worth more than entire nations. Marines who stood as the pillars of order in a world of chaos. And one man, one blind man in a purple yukata with a cane sword and a pair of wooden dice, who carried the weight of the heavens on his shoulders because someone had to, and because justice demanded it. Issho, Admiral Fujitora. Naruto did not understand the dreams at first. He thought they were fantasies. Escapism. The desperate imagination of a lonely kid building a hero in his sleep because the waking world refused to give him one. But the dreams were too consistent, too detailed, too complete. He remembered the taste of sea air, the sound of Den Den Mushi ringing in Marine headquarters, the exact weight of the Shikomizue in his hand, the precise moment he consumed the Zushi no Mi and felt gravity itself bow to his will. These were memories, another life, another him. And with the memories came the power. It started small, a cup sliding toward him on the table when he reached for it, his body feeling lighter when he jumped, a pebble floating an inch off his palm when he concentrated. Then, 3 weeks ago, he had gotten angry, truly angry, deep in his chest, the kind of anger that burns clean, when a shopkeeper threw a rotten apple at his head and called him a plague. Naruto's fist had clenched. The ground beneath the shopkeeper's feet had cracked into a spiderweb of fractures, and the man had dropped to his knees like an invisible giant had pressed a thumb on his skull nobody saw. The shopkeeper thought his legs gave out, but Naruto knew, the Zushi no Mi, the gravity fruit. Somehow, impossibly, the power had followed him across death and rebirth, and it was growing every day. So here he sat, 7 years old, turning the kunai over in his small hands. The observation haki was growing too. He could feel it expanding like a bubble, sensing the couple arguing next door, sensing the drunk man stumbling down the alley, sensing the Anbu operative on the rooftop across the street pretending to watch the moon when he was really watching Naruto's window. He could feel intentions, emotions, the low, ugly hum of hatred from every civilian who looked at him sideways. And that was the problem. He could see too much. The cruelty, the pettiness, the casual, thoughtless malice of people who hated a child for something sealed inside him before he could speak. Issho's memories whispered a familiar truth to him, and Naruto listened because the old admiral had earned the right to be heard. There are things in this world, Naruto murmured to himself, voice too calm for a 7-year-old, that you should not have to see. He raised the kunai. Issho had done it in the other life too. Scarred his own eyes shut after witnessing horrors committed by the world government, atrocities carried out in the name of justice that made justice itself a joke. He chose blindness because he refused to look upon a world that allowed such things and pretend it was fine. Naruto's reasons were different, and the same. He dragged the blade across his eyes. The pain was extraordinary, white-hot, searing, a kind of agony that no 7-year-old should know. Blood poured down his face in twin rivers, hot and thick, staining the front of his shirt, dripping onto the wooden floor. He did not scream. He breathed, steady, in and out. Admiral Fujitora had endured worse. Naruto Uzumaki would endure this. The kunai clattered to the floor. The world went dark, and then the world exploded into light. Observation haki erupted from Naruto Uzumaki like a supernova. Every wall in his apartment became transparent. Every soul in the building blazed like a bonfire. The anbu on the rooftop lit up like a torch. Naruto could feel his heartbeat, his breathing pattern, the spike of alarm as the operative sensed something wrong. He could feel the couple next door, their argument dying in their throats as a wave of pressure rolled through the walls. He could feel the drunk in the alley stumble and fall as something enormous and invisible passed over him like the shadow of a god. Naruto could see everything, every aura, every intention, every heartbeat in a 6-block radius. He could see the shapes of buildings, the flow of wind, the vibration of the earth beneath his feet. He could see more with his eyes destroyed than he ever had with them open. He crossed his legs on the bed, folded his hands in his lap, and smiled, blood still running down his face, calm, warm, settled. When the third Hokage burst through the door 17 minutes later, flanked by 2 anbu, his pipe still smoking, his old face white with horror, he found a 7-year-old boy sitting in a pool of his own blood, smiling peacefully. A cross-shaped scar was already forming across the bridge of his nose and over both ruined eyes. The kunai lay on the floor like an afterthought. Hiruzen Sarutobi had fought in 3 wars. He had buried friends, students, and a successor. He had stared down Orochimaru's defection without flinching. He had carried the weight of leadership for decades. He had never, in all his years, felt a chill like the one that crawled up his spine looking at this child. "Naruto," he said, and his voice cracked on the second syllable. "What have you done?" Naruto tilted his head toward the Hokage's voice. His ruined eyes were closed. The blood on his cheeks looked like war paint. "Ah, Hokage-sama, good evening. Forgive the mess." "Your eyes, Naruto. Your eyes. We need a medical team immediately." "That will be unnecessary." Naruto's voice was gentle, measured. It sounded like it belonged to a man 4 times his age. "There are many things in this world you do not want to see. Losing my sight was a small price to pay for peace." Silence. The anbu behind Hiruzen exchanged a look. One of them, Kat, took half a step back. She would later tell her partner that the air in that room felt heavy, like the ceiling was lower, like the floor was pulling at her sandals. Hiruzen opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "You chose this?" "I did." "Why?" "Because a man who sees everything and does nothing is worse than a man who sees nothing and does what is right." Naruto smiled again, that same warm, grandfatherly smile that would become the most terrifying expression in the shinobi world within 6 years. "May I trouble you for a bandage, Hokage-sama? I seem to have made quite the mess of your evening." Hiruzen sank to his knees in front of the boy. He called for the medical team anyway. They came. They treated the wounds. They could not restore the eyes. The damage was intentional, thorough, and done with the kind of anatomical precision that a 7-year-old should not possess. The scars healed into a permanent cross shape over both eyelids, stretching from his forehead down to his cheeks. The Hokage visited Naruto every day for the next month. He brought food, books on tape, anything he could think of, and every visit, he left more unsettled than the last. Because Naruto was fine, better than fine. He moved through his apartment like a sighted person. He could tell Hiruzen what he had eaten for breakfast by the traces of food on his robes. He could identify anbu operatives by their breathing patterns alone. And once, just once, Hiruzen watched Naruto reach out his hand and lift a teacup from the counter across the room. The cup floated, steady, smooth, and silent. It drifted through the air and settled into the boy's waiting palm without a drop spilled. Hiruzen said nothing about it. But that night, he sat in his office until 3 in the morning, staring at the crystal ball on his desk, smoking pipe after pipe and thinking about the phrase Naruto had used. Humane justice. The boy had used those words 3 times during their conversations. Each time he said them like a prayer, like a mission statement, like they were the only 2 words in any language that mattered. Hiruzen had the feeling that the world was about to change, and he had no idea whether to be relieved or terrified. He was right about both. Over the next 5 years, rumors spread through Konoha the way rumors always do, in whispers at market stalls and hushed conversations at shinobi bars. The demon brat blinded himself. The Nine-Tails kid went crazy. He walks around with a cane now, carries a sword in it, wears a purple kimono like some kind of old man, rolls dice before he makes decisions, smiles at everybody even though they spit at his feet. The civilians laughed. The shinobi did not, because the shinobi heard other rumors. Quieter ones. The kind traded between Jonin over sake at 2 in the morning, spoken in tones that people use when they do not fully believe what they are saying, but cannot deny what they saw. A training ground Naruto used had a crater in it, 3 meters deep. Nobody saw it happen. An academy instructor had grabbed Naruto's shoulder too roughly during a lesson. The instructor's knees buckled so hard his shins cracked the tile floor. He swore the air got heavier, like standing at the bottom of the ocean. The Inuzuka dogs refused to go near Naruto. Every single one. They whined, tucked their tails, and pulled at their leashes. Sume Inuzuka's partner Kuramaru, a war veteran missing an ear and afraid of nothing, walked up to Naruto once, sniffed the air around him, and walked away without a word. When Sume asked what he sensed, Kuramaru said, "That boy carries the weight of the sky." Naruto graduated from the academy without fanfare. His written scores were average. He dictated his answers to a teaching assistant, and he deliberately kept them unremarkable. His combat scores were impossible to measure. During the graduation sparring exercise, he stood in the center of the ring with his cane sword resting against his shoulder, dodged every strike from Kiba Inuzuka without moving his feet, and placed the tip of his sheathed cane against Kiba's throat so gently it could have been a tap between friends. Kiba hit the ground 2 seconds later, pinned by something invisible, gasping like a fish. When they pulled him out, he was shaking. He told Shino it felt like a house fell on him. Iruka Umino, the only teacher who had ever treated Naruto with genuine kindness, handed him his forehead protector with pride. Naruto tied it around his left arm instead of his forehead. The cross-shaped scar was part of him. He was Admiral Fujitora reborn. He wore his scars like medals. "Thank you, Iruka-sensei," Naruto said, bowing his head. "You have been very kind to a troublesome old soul." "Old soul," Iruka repeated, laughing. "You're 12, Naruto." Naruto said, and smiled in a way that made Iruka's laugh die in his throat. "Am I?" Team assignments happened 3 days later. Team 7, Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, Jonin leader, Kakashi Hatake. The classroom buzzed. Sasuke glanced at the blind kid in the purple kimono with the kind of passive contempt he reserved for anyone who was not an Uchiha or a worthy opponent. Sakura looked at Naruto with open confusion. She had been so focused on being near Sasuke that she barely registered the third member of their team. Naruto sat at the back of the room, cane sword propped against the desk beside him, rolling a pair of wooden dice on the desktop. Click, click, click. The sound was rhythmic, almost meditative. Several students found it irritating. None of them said anything about it. Something about Naruto's calm, the specific quality of his stillness, discouraged complaints. "A blind guy, the emo king, and a fangirl," Kiba muttered from across the room. "What a team." Naruto tilted his head in Kiba's direction. "The dice say you should focus on your own team, Kiba-san. You have a long road ahead." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing unkind. Merely an observation." Kiba opened his mouth to retort, then remembered the sparring ring and closed it. Kakashi Hatake was 3 hours late. This was, of course, deliberate. Kakashi believed tardiness was an excellent tool for reading new students. The impatient ones complained. The arrogant ones seethed. The disciplined ones waited quietly. It told him everything he needed to know before saying a single word. When he finally appeared on the rooftop where Team 7 had been told to wait, his visible eyes scanned the scene with practiced laziness. Sakura was fuming, arms crossed, muttering about disrespect. Sasuke was brooding against the railing, staring at the village below, jaw tight. Standard. Naruto was sitting cross-legged under the shade of the water tower, his cane sword across his lap, head tilted slightly upward as though he were watching clouds he could not see. A pair of wooden dice sat in front of his folded knees. His expression was serene. Kakashi's eye lingered on the blind boy longer than the others. He had read the file. Everyone in Jonin Command had read the file. Self-inflicted blindness at age 7, unknown sensory abilities, suspected gravitational anomalies in his vicinity. The third Hokage's personal note at the bottom of the file had simply said, "Do not underestimate this child. In all my years, I have never written those words about a genin." "Yo," Kakashi said, raising a hand. "Sorry I'm late. A black cat crossed my path, and I had to." "You were reading on a bench near the memorial stone?" Naruto said, without moving. His voice carried that strange, gentle resonance, warm and unhurried, like a monk offering tea. "You arrived in the vicinity 40 minutes ago and chose to wait. The book had a red cover. Your heart rate was relaxed the entire time. You were not lost, Kakashi-sensei. You were testing us." Dead silence, Sakura stared. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. Kakashi's hand froze in its lazy wave. "Sure, I could feel you from here," Naruto added, tapping the side of his head with one finger. "Forgive me if that seems rude. Old habits." Kakashi lowered his hand slowly. Behind his mask, his jaw had tightened by a fraction, the only sign of surprise the copy ninja would allow. He filed the information away. The kid sensed him from a rooftop 300 meters from the memorial stone. Through buildings, precisely enough to identify what he was doing. That was beyond the Byakugan's range, beyond anything a genin should possess. "Ma," Kakashi said, recovering with practiced ease. "Looks like we have a perceptive one." "All right, let's start with introductions. Likes, dislikes, dreams. You first, Pinky." Sakura went first. She liked Sasuke, disliked Ino, and her dream involved looking at Sasuke while blushing. Kakashi mentally checked the box labeled "needs work." Sasuke went second. He disliked many things. He liked very few things. His dream was not a dream, it was an ambition to kill a certain man and restore his clan. Kakashi checked the box labeled "needs therapy." Then it was Naruto's turn. Naruto picked up his dice. He rolled them. They clattered on the rooftop. 6 and 6, he smiled. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I enjoy the sound of wind, the taste of good ramen, and the honesty of dice. They have no agenda. I dislike cruelty without purpose and those who harm the weak to feel strong." He paused. His scarred face was angled toward the sky. "My dream is humane justice, a world where power protects instead of devours. That is all." Silence again. This was becoming a pattern. Sakura blinked. "That's surprisingly deep for you, Naruto." "I am full of surprises, Sakura-san." Sasuke said nothing, but he was looking at Naruto now. Actually looking. Something in the blind boy's voice, the weight of it, the certainty, had snagged on the jagged edges of Sasuke's attention. Kakashi pulled out 2 silver bells on strings from his pocket. "All right, survival exercise tomorrow. Training ground 7, 6 a.m. Come ready to fight. Try to take these bells from me. Fair warning, most teams fail this test. Come at me with everything you have, or you'll never touch them." He smiled behind his mask. "Oh, and skip breakfast. You'll throw up." Training ground 7, dawn. The grass was still wet with dew, and the 3 wooden posts in the center of the clearing cast long shadows in the early light. Sakura arrived first, nervous, hungry, fidgeting with her shuriken pouch. Sasuke arrived second, coiled and silent, hands in his pockets, Sharingan not yet awakened, but every muscle in his body tuned like piano wire. Naruto arrived third, though arrived was generous. He was simply there, sitting cross-legged beneath a wide oak tree at the edge of the clearing, cane sword across his knees, head tilted, smiling at nothing. Nobody had seen him walk in. Nobody had heard him. He was just there. "How long have you been sitting there?" Sakura asked. "Since before sunrise," Naruto said. "The birds here are wonderful. There is a family of sparrows in this tree. The mother is teaching her children to fly." "We're about to fight a jonin and you're listening to birds?" The birds will still be here after the fight, Sakura-san. That is comforting, I think. Sakura opened her mouth, closed it, and decided to stand near Sasuke instead. Kakashi arrived, on time, shockingly, and took his position in the center of the field. He held up the two bells. Rules are simple. Get a bell before noon or you fail. Come at me with killing intent. His eye curved into a crescent. Begin. Sakura vanished into the tree line. Textbook. Hide first, assess, plan. Sasuke launched forward immediately. Aggressive, precise, a barrage of taijutsu that showed genuine academy top talent. Kakashi handled him with one hand, reading his strikes, deflecting, testing. Good instincts. Predictable. Still thinking like a student. Kakashi redirected him with a sweep, caught him in a headlock, and tossed him into the creek. Sasuke came back with a fireball. Kadan. Gokaku no Jutsu. The grand fireball roared across the clearing. Kakashi sidestepped it, barely, and raised an eyebrow. A genin performing C-rank fire release. Impressive, but still manageable. Sakura attempted a trap while Kakashi was distracted. Kunai with wire strings. Kakashi sensed it, avoided it, and placed her under a jutsu that had her screaming Sasuke's name within 3 seconds. She dropped, 2 down. Kakashi turned to the oak tree. Naruto had not moved. He sat in the same position, cross-legged, cane across his knees, head tilted slightly upward. The dice were in his left hand. He rolled them against the flat of his cane sword. Click, click, clatter. 6. Ah, Naruto said softly. That tends to go poorly for my opponents. Kakashi walked toward him. Casual, hands in his pockets, he kept his posture loose, unthreatening. He was assessing. The file said gravitational anomalies. The file said the Hokage's personal warning. But Kakashi was a man who believed in testing everything himself. You know, Kakashi said, the test started 5 minutes ago. I am aware. Most students would have attacked by now. I am not most students, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto tucked the dice into his kimono sleeve. His thumb settled on the hilt of the cane sword. A small gesture, almost casual. And I felt it would be rude to interrupt your assessment of the others. They worked very hard. Kakashi stopped 10 feet away. Fair enough. So are you planning to? Kakashi moved. He moved the way only an elite jonin could. A burst of shunshin so fast it blurred the air, closing the distance in a heartbeat, hand reaching for Naruto's collar from behind. 1,000 years of death. A classic Kakashi move to humble, overconfident genin. Humiliating, effective, and Naruto's thumb pushed the hilt of his cane sword forward by a 1/4 inch. Gravito. The word was spoken softly, almost a whisper. Like a man saying a prayer, the world cracked. Kakashi hit the ground face first. His entire body slammed into the dirt like a giant hand had swatted him out of the air. The earth beneath him cratered. A perfect circle, 3 meters wide, the grass flattened, the soil compressed, the air itself seeming to thicken and solidify. His arms were pinned to his sides. His legs would not respond. His face was pressed into the dirt so hard he could taste roots and earthworms. He tried to push himself up. His arms screamed. It felt like someone had strapped a boulder to every square inch of his body. His bones groaned under the pressure. Kakashi Hatake, the copy ninja, wielder of over 1,000 jutsu, student of the 4th Hokage, veteran of wars and black ops, was face down in the dirt and could not lift a single finger. What? His voice came out muffled, half eaten by the ground. Naruto stood. He rose from his seated position with the easy grace of a man who had done this 10,000 times. He walked toward Kakashi's prone body. Each step was unhurried. His cane sword tapped the ground with a soft click, 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 the sound of approaching gravity. He knelt beside Kakashi. Forgive me, Kakashi-sensei. This may be somewhat uncomfortable. His hand reached down and plucked the 2 silver bells from Kakashi's belt. Easy, gentle, like picking flowers. Kakashi's single visible eye was wide. Not with pain, the pressure was immense but controlled, deliberate, meant to pin rather than crush. He was wide-eyed because in 20 years of active shinobi service, he had never been immobilized this quickly, this completely, by anything short of a sealing technique or a direct hit from a cog. This 12-year-old blind boy had done it with a word and a 1/4 inch draw of his sword. How? Kakashi grunted. Gravity is a fundamental force, Naruto said, as though explaining something to a polite stranger. I simply asked it to increase. It obliged. The pressure released. Kakashi gasped, sucking in air, and pushed himself to his hands and knees. The crater beneath him was real. The compressed earth was real. His body ached, like he had been training for 48 hours straight. He looked up at Naruto. The blind boy was standing over him, holding both bells in one hand, smiling warmly. Behind him, Sasuke had pulled himself out of the creek and was standing at the edge of the clearing, soaking wet, staring. His dark eyes were saucers. The great fireball he had been so proud of suddenly felt like a candle. Sakura had come out of the genjutsu and was sitting on the ground, mouth open, gaping at the crater. Did Naruto just... He put Kakashi-sensei in the ground, Sasuke said. His voice was flat, controlled, but underneath it something cracked. The first fracture in the foundation of the boy who believed he was the strongest genin in Konoha. In one move, Kakashi stood up slowly. He brushed the dirt from his vest. He looked at Naruto with his single gray eye, and for the first time in a very long time, the mask of lazy indifference slipped enough to show what was underneath: respect, and a good amount of unease. That technique, Kakashi said, that was not ninjutsu. It was not genjutsu. What was it? I control gravity, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto said it the way someone might say they preferred their ramen with extra pork. Factual, simple. I have done so for some time. It is a gift, I suppose. A gift. The universe is generous to those who know how to listen. Kakashi stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed. A genuine, disbelieving, slightly unhinged laugh. The kind of laugh a man makes when the universe shows him something that rewrites his understanding of what is possible. All right, Kakashi said, running a hand through his silver hair. Well, you got the bells. Technically, 2 of you should fail. Naruto held up both bells. He tossed one to Sasuke, tossed the other to Sakura. They worked hard for them, Naruto said simply. The bells matter less to me than the lesson. Teamwork, yes? Kakashi's eye narrowed, then widened. You knew the real purpose of the test. A military unit that sacrifices its own is already defeated. An admiral, a leader, protects those under his banner, even when the rules say otherwise. Naruto paused, tilted his head. Forgive me, I sometimes speak as though I am older than I am. Kakashi stared. You pass, he said. All 3 of you. He said it quickly, almost dismissively, because if he stood there any longer looking at this impossible blind child, he was going to have an existential crisis. He needed to go home, read Icha, and pretend today was normal. It was not normal. Nothing about Team 7 was going to be normal ever again. As they walked back toward the village, Kakashi fell into step beside Naruto. The boy's cane tapped the path in a steady rhythm. His face was tilted toward the warmth of the sun. Naruto. Yes, Kakashi-sensei? That technique, gravito, how much of that was your full power? Naruto's smile was gentle, patient. The smile of a man who carried a mountain on his shoulders and had learned to enjoy the view. Kakashi-sensei, that was barely a greeting. Kakashi did not ask any more questions that day. Behind them, Sasuke clutched the silver bell in his fist so tightly his knuckles turned white. He did not look at Naruto. He could not. Because looking at Naruto meant acknowledging that the power gap between them was not a gap, it was a canyon. And Sasuke Uchiha was not ready for that yet. Sakura walked beside them in a daze. She kept glancing at the crater they were leaving behind. It was still there, real, permanent. A blind boy had put their Jonin sensei face down in the dirt with a whisper, and then apologized for it. She had a lot to think about. Mission assignments for new genin teams were historically boring. Walk the dog, paint the fence, catch the cat. Repeat until your sensei decided you were ready for something real. Team 7 caught the cat on their first D-rank mission in under 4 minutes. Naruto located it with observation haki from half a mile away, used a gentle gravitational pull to lift the terrified animal off a tree branch and float it into Sakura's arms. The cat, Tora, the fire daimyo's wife's eternal escapee, was so stunned by the sensation of floating that it forgot to scratch anyone. The mission desk was confused. The client was confused. Kakashi put in for a C rank the next day. The Hokage looked at Kakashi over his desk, pipe in mouth, eyebrows raised. Already? You've read the file, Hokage-sama. I have. Then you understand why catching cats is a waste of everyone's time. Kakashi paused. Especially his. Hiruzen puffed on his pipe. He thought about the teacup that had floated across a room. He thought about the words humane justice spoken in the voice of an old soul. He stamped the C-rank approval. Escort mission to the land of waves. A bridge builder named Tazuna needs protection. And just like that, Team 7 walked into a storm. Tazuna was a drunk. Let's be honest about it. The man smelled like sake fumes and sawdust, and he looked at the 3 kids assigned to protect him the way a man looks at a parking ticket, with resigned irritation. This is my protection? A pretty boy, a girl, and a... He squinted at Naruto. A blind kid with a stick? It is a cane sword, Tazuna-san, Naruto corrected gently, though I appreciate the simplification. A cane sword. Wonderful. I'm going to die on this road. The dice say otherwise. Naruto rolled his dice on his open palm. 5 and 4. You will arrive at your bridge safely. I give you my word. Tazuna stared at the blind boy, opened his mouth, glanced at Kakashi, and decided to drink instead. The road to the land of waves was uneventful for the first 6 hours. Forest paths, bird song, the crunch of gravel underfoot. Sakura chatted nervously. Sasuke walked in brooding silence. Kakashi read his book. Naruto tapped his cane in rhythm with his steps, and the world sang to him through observation haki. Every insect, every bird, every rustling leaf, every human soul within a mile radius. Which is why, when the demon brothers attacked, Naruto was already bored. They came from a puddle on the road, 2 Chunin-level missing nin with serrated chain weapons, leaping for Kakashi with practiced coordination. They wrapped their chain around the Jonin and pulled. Kakashi died in a spray of blood and log. Substitution jutsu, textbook, playing dead to test his students. The demon brothers turned on Tazuna. Sakura screamed and threw herself in front of the bridge builder. Sasuke pivoted and threw a shuriken that pinned the chain to a tree. Naruto sighed. Gravity crush. He did not shout it. He said it like a man ordering tea. 2 words, spoken softly, with the cane sword tapping the ground once. Both demon brothers slammed into the earth. Their bodies cratered the road. Their weapons shattered against the compressed soil. They gasped, pinned flat, unable to even turn their heads. The chains snapped. Their masks cracked against the stone. The fight lasted 1.5 seconds. Sakura's scream cut off mid-breath. She stared at the 2 assassins, now pancaked into the road like they had been pressed under a hydraulic machine. Sasuke's shuriken was still embedded in the tree, the chain still pinned. It was completely irrelevant. The fight had ended before his contribution mattered. Kakashi dropped from a tree overhead, landing softly, his eyes scanning the scene. The 2 demon brothers were unconscious, pressed into human-shaped craters, breathing but unable to move. The gravitational pressure held them like chains. Well, Kakashi said, they had killing intent focused on Tazuna-san, Naruto explained, as though discussing the weather. Their hostility was loud, unpleasant, like a dog barking in a quiet room. You sensed them from the puddle. The puddle was warm, Kakashi-sensei. It had not rained in 3 days, and I could feel 2 heartbeats inside it. Naruto tilted his head. Forgive me for ending it so quickly. I did not wish for Tazuna-san to be frightened. Tazuna, who was clutching his sake bottle like a life preserver, looked at the blind 12-year-old with an expression that was somewhere between gratitude and raw, primal terror. Kid, Tazuna said, what the hell are you? A genin, Naruto said, according to my headband at least. Kakashi tied up the demon brothers for interrogation. The mission was clearly more dangerous than a C rank. Tazuna eventually confessed, the bridge, Gato, the poverty, the assassination contracts. He begged them to continue. Tears and all, Kakashi looked at his team. This is A-rank territory. We should turn back. We should continue, Naruto said. You understand the risk? I understand the injustice. Naruto's voice was calm, but there was something underneath it now. A thread of steel wrapped in silk. A tyrant is strangling an entire nation because he fears a bridge. That bridge is hope, Kakashi-sensei, and I have never been comfortable standing by while tyrants crush hope. Even Sasuke looked at him. Something flickered behind those dark Uchiha eyes. Not admiration, Sasuke was too proud for that, but recognition. An acknowledgement that the blind boy had something Sasuke did not. Absolute clarity of purpose. Kakashi studied Naruto's face, the crossed scars, the closed eyes, the soft smile, the cane sword resting against his shoulder. He remembered the crater. He remembered being unable to lift a finger. All right, Kakashi said, we continue. Team 7 crossed into the land of waves by boat under the cover of morning fog. Zabuza Momochi was waiting for them on the road. He stood in the center of the path like a wall of killing intent and muscle. The executioner's blade, Kubikira Bocho, was planted in the earth beside him, its enormous crescent edge gleaming in the filtered light. His bandages covered the lower half of his face. His eyes were predator's eyes, cold, calculating, hungry. Behind him, the air thickened. The temperature dropped. Kirigakure no Jutsu. The hidden mist rolled in like a living thing, dense, white, suffocating, swallowing the forest in seconds. Visibility dropped to 0. Sakura grabbed Tazuna's arm, her training screaming at her to protect the client. Sasuke dropped into a fighting stance, his eyes scanning uselessly through the white nothing. Even Kakashi tensed, his hand moving to lift his headband over his Sharingan eye. Zabuza's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. 8 vital points: larynx, spine, lungs, liver, jugular, subclavian artery, kidneys, heart. Which one should I choose? Sakura trembled. She could feel it. Killing intent so thick it was like drowning. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. Every instinct in her body screamed to run. Sasuke's hands shook. A bead of sweat ran down his temple. He gritted his teeth and held his ground, but his heart was hammering so loud he was sure Zabuza could hear it. Kakashi pushed up his headband. The Sharingan spun to life, 3 Tomoe rotating, piercing the mist. Stay behind me, all of you. This is Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the hidden mist. He is standing 43 meters to our northeast, Naruto said. His voice cut through the killing intent like sunlight through fog. Calm, measured. The voice of a man who had stood on the decks of warships in the New World and faced pirates whose killing intent could shatter the minds of lesser men. He is circulating his chakra through the mist to maintain the technique. His heart rate is elevated. He is excited. He genuinely enjoys this. Silence. Even the killing intent wavered for a moment. What the hell? Zabuza's voice carried a new note, surprise. Naruto stepped forward, past Sasuke, past Kakashi, past all of them. He walked into the mist like a man walking into his own living room. His cane tapped the ground. Click, click, click. Kakashi-sensei, please protect the client and my teammates. This will only take a moment. Naruto, wait, Kakashi started. The mist blinds the eyes, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto smiled over his shoulder, his scarred face, his sealed eyes, his warm expression. And I do not have those. So you see, this technique is somewhat wasted on me. He walked into the white void. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. The mist was silent. Sakura's breathing was the loudest sound. Then Naruto's voice, clear, gentle, carrying through the mist like a bell. You have a very impressive sword, Zabuza-san. I can feel its weight from here. It must be a burden to carry something so heavy. Shut up, kid. Zabuza's voice was moving now, circling, positioning. Naruto's observation haki tracked him like a spotlight in the dark. Every shift of weight, every flex of muscle, every spike of intent. You're a genin. Step aside and let me kill your sensei, and maybe I'll let you live. I am afraid I cannot do that. Naruto stopped walking. He stood still in the center of the mist, one hand on his cane sword, the other hanging loose at his side. But I thank you for the offer. It shows a degree of mercy. Mercy? Zabuza laughed, a harsh, barking sound. There's no mercy in the mist, boy. There is no mist either, just water and chakra, and I can feel both. Zabuza struck. He came in from the right. A devastating horizontal swing of the executioner's blade aimed to bisect Naruto at the waist. 7 feet of sharpened steel, swung with the force of a man who had murdered an entire graduating class of academy students as a child. The blade screamed through the air. Naruto drew his cane sword 1 inch. The metal that emerged was black. Armament haki, Busoshoku haki, coating the exposed blade in an invisible hardening that made it denser, stronger, and more durable than anything in the shinobi world. The executioner's blade met the single exposed inch of Naruto's cane sword. The clang was enormous. A shockwave blew the mist apart in a 10-meter radius around them. Zabuza's arm shook. The executioner's blade, the legendary Kubikira Bocho, one of the 7 swords of the mist, vibrated so hard its edge chipped against the haki-coated steel. Zabuza's eyes went wide. What? That blade, that tiny... It is not the size of the sword that matters, Zabuza-san. Naruto's voice had not changed, still calm, still warm, still the voice of a man offering tea. It is the will behind it, he parried. A flick of the wrist, redirecting the executioner's blade upward, opening Zabuza's guard like a door. Then he drew his cane sword fully. The blade sang, gravity blade, fierce tiger. Naruto swung. A single horizontal slash. and from the edge of the blade, a wave of gravitational force erupted, a crescent of compressed, crushing energy that screamed through the air like a freight train made of pure pressure. It hit Zabuza dead center. The demon of the hidden mist was launched backward. His feet left the ground. His body ragdolled through the forest, smashing through 1 tree, 2 trees, 5 trees, 10 trees. Each trunk shattering on impact like matchsticks, the mist blowing apart in a cone of destruction that cleared the entire road. He hit the ground 100 meters away, bouncing twice, digging a trench with his body, and finally slamming into a boulder that cracked in half. The mist was gone, blown away in an instant by the concussive force of a single swing from a 12-year-old boy. Sunlight poured through the canopy. Birds that had been silent during the killing intent erupted from the trees, shrieking. The ground between Naruto and the distant boulder was a corridor of devastation, splintered trees, churned earth, a path of destruction that looked like a typhoon had touched down in a straight line. Naruto flicked the blood from his cane sword and sheathed it with a soft click. Back on the road, no one moved. No one breathed. Sakura's mouth was open so wide a bird could have nested in it. Her brain was trying to process what she had just witnessed, and it was failing. It kept buffering, like a scroll that had too many characters crammed into it. Sasuke stood perfectly still. His hands had dropped to his sides. The fighting stance was gone. The pride was gone. He was staring at the corridor of destroyed trees with an expression that started as disbelief and was rapidly evolving into something far more complicated. A cocktail of shock, frustration, and a terrible, creeping realization that power existed on a level he had not imagined. Tazuna dropped his sake bottle. It shattered on the ground. He did not notice. Kakashi's Sharingan was spinning. It had recorded the entire exchange. The draw. The hockey coding. A technique no Sharingan could replicate because it was not chakra. The gravitational wave. The destruction, all of it committed to perfect memory, and none of it making any sense within the framework of shinobi combat as Kakashi understood it. That, Kakashi said slowly, was one swing. Zabuza-san is durable, Naruto observed. He is already getting up. His spirit is admirable. Kakashi's head snapped toward the distant boulder. Sure enough, Zabuza was pulling himself out of the rubble, coughing blood, the executioner's blade clutched in a white-knuckle grip. He was alive. Broken ribs, probably. Internal bleeding, likely, but alive. Because he was Zabuza Momochi, and the demon of the mist did not die from a single hit. But the look in his eyes had changed. The predator's confidence was gone, replaced by something Zabuza had not felt since he was a child killing his classmates. Raw, animal survival instinct. The deep brain recognition that the thing in front of him was not prey. It was a natural disaster wearing a child's face. What are you? Zabuza panted, blood dripping from his mouth. Naruto turned toward him, blind eyes sealed shut, smile unchanged, cane sword resting against his shoulder. A genin, apparently, though I confess the title feels somewhat limiting. Zabuza stared. Then he laughed. A wet, pained, incredulous laugh. A genin, right? Before Zabuza could decide whether to flee or die fighting, Senbon needles struck his neck from the trees. A masked figure, Haku in the Hunter Nin mask, appeared, bowed, claimed the body, and vanished in a swirl of mist. Naruto let them go. His observation haki tracked them both. Haku's heartbeat anxious, Zabuza's heartbeat slowing but steady. A fake death. The boy loved the man. Naruto could feel it. The fierce, desperate loyalty radiating from Haku like heat from a forge. That Hunter 9 was not real, Naruto said quietly. Kakashi looked at him sharply. What? The boy's emotions were wrong for a dispassionate executioner. He cared deeply for the man he struck. The needles targeted pressure points for inducing a death-like state, not actual death. Zabuza will be back. How do you know what? Never mind. Kakashi pulled his headband down over his Sharingan. He suddenly felt very tired. Let's get to Tazuna's house. I need to sit down. As they walked, Sakura sidled up next to Naruto. She was quiet for a while, gathering courage. Naruto? Yes, Sakura-san? What was that? That technique, that gravity thing. How did you? It is a long story, Sakura-san. The short version is that gravity does what I ask when I ask it, and I try to ask politely. He paused. Though I confess it was a bit rude to send Zabuza-san through so many trees, I will need to apologize for the deforestation. Sakura stared at him. You want to apologize for the trees. Trees have done nothing wrong. They did not deserve to be involved. Sakura decided she had reached her daily limit for Naruto-related confusion and fell silent. Sasuke walked behind them, silent as a ghost, his fists clenched in his pockets. Every step felt heavier. Every thought pointed at the same conclusion. He was supposed to be the strongest, the avenger, the prodigy, and the blind kid in the purple kimono had just done something that Sasuke couldn't do in 1,000 years of training. The first crack in Sasuke Uchiha's worldview had formed. It would only grow wider. They stayed at Tazuna's house. Kakashi rested. The team trained, or rather, Kakashi taught Sasuke and Sakura tree climbing, while Naruto sat on a rock and practiced something far stranger. Naruto held his hand above the ground and lifted a boulder the size of a cart. It hovered, silent, stable, orbiting slowly above his palm. Then a second boulder, then a third, then an entire section of forest floor, dirt, roots, mushrooms and all, peeled away and floated upward, joining the constellation of debris spinning above a blind 12-year-old sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed and his smile wide, floating field. The ability to levitate and control massive objects indefinitely. Fujitora had used it to lift the rubble of an entire city. Naruto was starting smaller, but the principle was the same. He owned gravity, and gravity owned everything. Inari, Tazuna's grandson, a crying boy with an ocean of grief and a chip on his shoulder the size of the land of fire, confronted Naruto on the third night. The boy stormed into the room, tears streaming, rage boiling, and screamed the words that every broken child screams at someone who seems unbreakable. You don't know anything about suffering. You're just some strong kid playing hero. You'll never understand what it's like to lose everything. The room went quiet. Sakura winced. Sasuke looked away. Kakashi watched with careful stillness. Naruto set down his teacup. You are right, he said gently. I have never seen my parents' death. That is a grief I cannot speak to. Inari froze. But I have lost my eyes, Naruto continued. By my own hand. I chose to lose them because the world showed me things I could no longer bear to see. Cruelty, hatred, the faces of men who looked at a child and saw a monster. He paused. His voice was so gentle it almost broke. Your father was a hero, Inari-san. He stood up for what was right and the world punished him for it. That is the way of tyrants. They destroy the brave to terrify the rest. Inari's tears flowed harder, but the anger drained out of him like water from a cracked cup. But your father's bravery did not die with him. It lives in you. In this house. In the bridge your grandfather builds. Courage is inherited, Inari-san, even when it does not feel like it. Naruto smiled, warm, wide, real. And I promise you, the tyrant who took your father will answer for it. Justice is patient, but it always arrives. Inari broke down. He sobbed into the table. Tsunami, his mother, pulled him close and cried with him. Sakura wiped her eyes. She would deny it later. Even Sasuke's jaw loosened by a fraction. Kakashi said nothing, but he made a mental note to include in his mission report that Naruto Uzumaki was perhaps the most emotionally intelligent 12-year-old he had ever encountered, and also possibly the most dangerous human being he had ever met. And those two things combined were keeping Kakashi awake at night. The bridge, the final day of construction. Tazuna and his workers arrived at dawn. The Great Naruto Bridge, as it would eventually be named, though nobody knew that yet, stretched across the gray water, almost complete. The mist came first. Thick, white, unnatural. The worker stopped. Tazuna's face went gray. No, not again. Zabuza stepped out of the mist at the far end of the bridge, executioner's blade on his shoulder, bandages red with partially healed wounds. Beside him stood Haku, mask on, senbon ready, moving with the cold grace of a weapon raised from birth. Behind them, approaching from the water, from the shore, from everywhere, was Gato's army. Not a squad, an army. Hundreds of mercs, bandits, hired thugs, armed with swords, spears, clubs, crossbows. A sea of violent, greedy, worthless men employed by a petty tyrant to crush a fishing village's dream of freedom. Gato himself stood at the back, behind a wall of bodyguards, a smug smile on his tiny, weasel face. He adjusted his sunglasses and looked at the bridge builder and his pathetic protectors with the bored contempt of a man who had always won because he could always buy more soldiers than anyone else could fight. Kill them all, Gato said. Destroy the bridge, And someone bring me the old man's head. I want it on my desk by lunch. The mercenaries roared. They surged forward, hundreds of feet pounding the incomplete bridge, shaking it, swarming like ants over a carcass. Kakashi moved to fight. Sasuke drew a kunai. Sakura shielded Tazuna. The bridge workers screamed and dropped their tools. Naruto stood at the center of the bridge. He was still, perfectly, absolutely still. But his cane sword was at his side. His head was tilted slightly upward, toward the sky he could not see. The mist curled around him. The screaming of mercenaries filled the air. The bridge shook. Such cruelty, he said softly. Over a bridge, over hope itself. He drew his cane sword, slow, deliberate, a pull so smooth it barely whispered, and pointed the tip toward the sky. I had hoped it would not come to this, but the dice were clear this morning. He held up the dice in his other hand, both sixes. Forgive me, he thrust the blade skyward. Ryusei meteor. The sky changed, the clouds ripped apart like torn paper, and the blue sky behind them turned the color of fire. Orange, red. A molten smear across the heavens that made every human being on that bridge, hero, villain, and bystander alike, stop in their tracks and look up, because something was coming down. A rock. A meteor. Pulled from the upper atmosphere by the gravitational authority of a reincarnated admiral. Called down to earth by a blind boy on a bridge in a nation nobody cared about. For no reason other than justice. It was the size of a mountain. The meteor descended trailing a tail of fire so long it split the sky in half. The heat hit first, a wall of scorching air that turned the mist to steam in an instant. Then the sound, a roar so deep it was felt in the chest rather than heard. The earth trembled, the ocean trembled, the air trembled. Every mercenary on the bridge stopped running. They looked up, and they understood in the primal, reptile brain way that all living things understand when faced with extinction, that they were about to die. Some dropped their weapons, some dropped to their knees, some turned and ran, shoving past each other, screaming, tripping over bodies, sanity evaporating in the heat of a falling star. One man, a scarred bandit with a missing ear, started laughing hysterically and sat down on the bridge. Another one wet himself. Gato's smug smile was gone. In its place was an expression that looked like someone had removed his skeleton. His bodyguards were already running. His sunglasses were fogged from the heat. His mouth was open, and no sound was coming out. Zabuza stared at the sky. The executioner's blade hung loose in his grip. His eyes, those cold, killer's eyes, were wide. His body was rigid, not with his usual combat tension, with awe. That boy, he whispered, that boy is calling down a star. Haku's mask was tilted upward. Behind it, tears were streaming down the face of a child who had never seen anything so beautiful and so terrifying in the same moment. The meteor's fire reflected in the white porcelain of the mask like a sunrise. Zabuza-sama, Haku said, voice trembling. What is he? On the bridge, Sakura screamed. She grabbed Tazuna and pulled him down, covering his body with hers, every survival instinct firing. We're going to die! Naruto, what did you do? Sasuke stood rooted. His body would not move. His eyes wide, white, the Sharingan flickering to life for the first time, two tomoe spinning in each iris as his body reacted to a level of stress it had never experienced, were fixed on the meteor, on the fire, on the sky falling. That's impossible, he said. His voice was small, a boy's voice. That's impossible. Kakashi's Sharingan was open, recording, memorizing, analyzing, and failing. Because there was no jutsu in any textbook, any scroll, any forbidden archive that described pulling a meteor from outer space with a sword technique. His hand was trembling. Kakashi Hadake's hand was trembling. Naruto, he said, and his voice cracked. What are you? Naruto stood in the center of it all, sword pointed at the sky, coat fluttering in the superheated wind, face peaceful. The screaming washed over him. The terror washed over him. He felt every heartbeat on that bridge, hundreds of them, racing, panicking, breaking. The meteor struck the ocean, not the bridge. The ocean. 300 meters to the east of the bridge, precisely placed, guided by gravitational control, so exact it might as well have been placed by hand. The impact was massive. A column of water erupted, towering, monstrous, reaching into the sky like a white fist punching heaven. The shockwave radiated outward in a ring of displaced ocean, a wall of water 50 feet high, racing in every direction. The bridge shuddered. The cliffs shook. The entire coastline felt the impact. The tsunami wall raced toward the bridge and stopped. Naruto held out his free hand. Floating field. The wave froze. 50 feet of ocean, suspended in midair, trembling, defying every law of physics, held in place by the will of one boy. At the same time, simultaneously, because an admiral does not do things one at a time, every piece of falling debris from the meteor impact, every chunk of superheated rock, every fragment of shattered seabed floated upward. Naruto caught them, hundreds of pieces, thousands. They orbited above the bridge in a slow, silent constellation of destruction that never touched a single plank. Then he redirected the tsunami. The wall of water turned. Naruto flicked his wrist, and 50 feet of suspended ocean swept horizontally across the surface, washing over the fleeing mercenary army like a broom sweeping dust. Men screamed. Weapons spun away. Bodies tumbled and rolled. The water carried them off the bridge, off the shore, into the ocean, scattered like leaves in a gale. Gato was caught in the sweep. His tiny body was launched off the bridge, flailing, screaming, his sunglasses flying off his face, his expensive suit soaking through as he cartwheeled into the churning waves. His bodyguards, those who hadn't already fled, went with him. The bridge was untouched. Every plank, every nail, every support beam. Intact, the debris field above settled. Naruto lowered his hand, and the rocks drifted down into the ocean like snowflakes, gentle, controlled, guided to spots where they would cause no harm. The mist was gone, evaporated by the meteor's heat. Sunlight blazed down on the bridge. The sky was blue again. The ocean was churning but settling. The mercenary army was scattered across the waves, clinging to debris, coughing, crying, beaten. Naruto sheathed his cane sword. Click. "Forgive the mess," he said. "I tried to minimize the property damage." Nobody responded for 7 full seconds. 7 seconds of absolute silence on a bridge that had just witnessed the impossible. Tazuna broke the silence. He was on his knees, Sakura's arms still over his shoulders, staring at the ocean crater where the meteor had struck. Steam was still rising from it. The water was still glowing faintly. Tazuna's voice was a whisper. He dropped a mountain from the sky. A meteor, technically, Naruto corrected gently. Mountains are stationary. Meteors are celestial bodies in transit. But I appreciate the comparison, Tazuna-san. Tazuna fainted, flat out. His eyes rolled back and he hit the bridge like a sack of cement. Sakura was shaking. Her whole body was vibrating like a tuning fork. She looked at Naruto. She looked at the sky. She looked at the ocean. She tried to speak 3 times before words came out. You just, the sky, the water. How? Naruto, what? Are you all right, Sakura-san? You seem distressed. Distressed? You pulled a meteor from space. I apologize for the scare. I aimed it carefully. Nobody was harmed. Nobody was. There's a crater in the ocean the size of a village. Fish are resilient creatures, Sakura-san. They will adapt. Sakura sat down on the bridge. She put her face in her hands while she made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. She had no idea what to do with any of this. Sasuke stood at the edge of the bridge, staring at the ocean crater. His newly awakened Sharingan spun slowly. Each Tomoe recorded the scene in perfect, indelible detail. The scale, the precision, the casual, effortless authority which Naruto had reshaped the battlefield. Something inside Sasuke broke. Not in a dramatic, explosive way. It was quieter than that. Like a thread snapping in a tapestry, invisible to the eye, but the whole picture shifted. He had always thought power was something you took, something you earned through suffering and sacrifice and rage. He had built his entire identity around the pursuit of power strong enough to kill Itachi. And now a blind boy had dropped a meteor on an army and apologized for getting the bridge wet. Sasuke said nothing, but the curse of hatred, that ancient Uchiha poison, stirred in his blood. Not because he hated Naruto, not yet, but because Naruto represented something Sasuke could not accept, the possibility that some people were simply born with power that others could never reach. That thought would fester. It would grow. It would drive Sasuke to dark places. But that was later. Right now, Kakashi walked to the edge of the bridge and looked down at the churning water. His mask hid his expression, but his shoulders were tense and his hands were in his pockets to hide their shaking. "Naruto," he said without turning around. "Yes, Kakashi-sensei? I'm going to need to file a very unusual mission report." "I understand. I apologize for the paperwork." "Stop apologizing. Forgive me." Kakashi sighed. Deep, long, the sigh of a man who had just watched the rules of reality rewrite themselves and still had to fill out forms about it. On the other side of the bridge, Zabuza lowered his sword. He had not moved during the entire meteor sequence. He stood in the same spot, feet planted, watching the aftermath with the eyes of a man reconsidering every life choice he had ever made. Haku appeared at his side. "Zabuza-sama, should we?" "No." Zabuza's voice was flat. "Final. We're done." "Done?" "Gato's finished. Look at the ocean, Haku. There's nothing left to fight for." Zabuza looked at Naruto, the small figure in the purple kimono, cane sword at his side, standing on the bridge like he owned the sky. "And I am not fighting that. Not today. Not ever." Haku looked at Naruto too. Behind the mask, a faint smile crossed the young man's face. "He is extraordinary, Zabuza-sama." "He's a monster." Zabuza paused. "The good kind." They left, walked off the bridge into the forest, away from the land of waves. Zabuza would survive. Haku would remain at his side. They had their own story to write, and it no longer intersected with Team 7's. Naruto felt them go. He tracked their heartbeats until they were out of range, two souls bound by loyalty, walking toward an uncertain future. He wished them well silently. Justice had been served. The bridge would be completed. Gato's empire was shattered, his mercenaries scattered, his reputation destroyed by a 12-year-old and a falling star. The land of waves was free. They named it the Great Naruto Bridge. Tazuna insisted. The entire village insisted. Naruto tried to decline. "I merely provided a gravitational incentive for the mercenaries to reconsider their career choices." But the people of Wave would not hear it. They painted a sign. They threw a festival. Children ran around pretending to pull meteors from the sky. One little girl walked up to Naruto and tugged on his kimono sleeve. "Mister, are you a god?" Naruto knelt down. He could feel her heartbeat, fast, excited, the pure and brilliant energy of a child who has just seen magic and wants to believe in it. He smiled. "I am just a boy with a sword and a strong opinion about gravity, little one." The girl stared at him. "You're weird." "So I have been told." Konoha received Team 7's mission report with something that could generously be described as institutional panic. The report itself was standard format. Mission objective, enemy encounters, outcome, team performance. Kakashi filled it out in his usual terse style. But the addendum was 3 pages long, handwritten by a jonin whose handwriting got progressively more unsteady as the paragraphs went on. The pertinent details. A genin had neutralized a missing nin swordsman with a single sword technique that defied all known categories of ninjutsu, taijutsu, and genjutsu. That same genin had then summoned a meteor from the upper atmosphere that created a crater in the ocean visible from satellite. That same genin had simultaneously caught a tsunami, redirected it, and swept away an army of several hundred mercenaries while protecting a bridge down to the individual plank. The report landed on the Hokage's desk. Hiruzen read it, reread it, put down his pipe, picked it up again, read it a 3rd time. He summoned Kakashi. "Is this accurate?" "Hokage-sama, I have a Sharingan. I recorded the entire thing. It is, if anything, understated." Hiruzen leaned back in his chair. He looked very old in that moment, very tired, and very, very concerned. He pulled a meteor from space. "Yes, and he's 12. Technically 13 in a few months." Kakashi. "Yes, Hokage-sama. How strong is he?" Kakashi was quiet for a long time. He thought about the bell test, the crater, the word gravito spoken like a whisper, and the feeling of being unable to lift a finger. He thought about the fierce tiger technique and Zabuza's body carving a trench through a forest. He thought about the meteor and the way Naruto had aimed it with the precision of a surgeon and the power of an extinction event. "I don't know," Kakashi said honestly. "But I don't think he has a ceiling. And I don't think he's shown us his ceiling. I think what we've seen is what he's comfortable showing a genin team." He paused. "Hokage-sama, when I was pinned during the bell test, I felt something. Like gravity itself was aware of me, like the earth was paying attention. I have never felt anything like it." Hiruzen closed his eyes. "Humane justice, sir? Something he said to me once, a long time ago." Hiruzen opened his eyes. They were sharp, focused, the eyes of a leader making a calculation. "Keep training the other two. Let Naruto do what he does. And for the love of all the Hokage who came before me, do not put him in a situation where he feels the need to go further than a meteor." "Further? Hokage-sama, What's further than a meteor? Hiruzen said nothing, but the way he puffed his pipe, slow, thoughtful, slightly afraid, said everything. The Chunin exams came to Konoha like a storm front. Teams from every major village, foreign headbands on every street corner, political tension thick enough to cut with a kunai. Teams entered the exam. The first stage, Ibiki Morino's written test, designed to test information gathering and nerve, was uneventful for Team 7. Naruto sat in his chair, dice on the desk, head tilted as though listening to music no one else could hear. He did not cheat. He did not need to. Observation Haki let him feel every test taker's confidence level, every proctor's attention, every hidden shinobi planted in the room. He answered what he could and left the rest blank because the written answers did not matter. Only the final question. When Ibiki asked who wanted to quit, the real test, the nerve test, the "are you brave enough to risk everything" moment, Naruto spoke before anyone could raise their hand. "None of us are leaving," he said. His voice was quiet, but it filled the room. Cowardice is easy. It is always easy. The difficult thing, the necessary thing, is to move forward when the path is uncertain. That is what separates a soldier from a bystander. Nobody quit, not a single team. Ibiki was furious and impressed in equal measure. The second stage was the Forest of Death. Anko Mitarashi's playground, a massive enclosed forest filled with giant animals, lethal terrain, and 40 teams of genin with orders to steal each other's scrolls. Survival of the fittest. Kill or be killed. A controlled war zone, Team 7 entered the forest, and Naruto immediately expanded his observation haki to its full range. The forest lit up in his mind like a city at night. Every team, every heartbeat, every creature. He could feel the giant snakes in their dens, the leeches in the rivers, the tigers in the undergrowth. He could feel the genin teams moving through the canopy, some cautious, some reckless, some already fighting. And he could feel something else, something dark, something ancient and rotten, like a wound that had festered for decades, hidden under the skin of the forest's edge. An aura of malice so refined, so concentrated, so old that it stood out from every other soul in the forest like a bonfire in a field of candles. Naruto stopped walking. His hand tightened on his cane sword. "Kakashi-sensei is not here," Naruto said quietly. "Obviously," Sasuke replied. "We're on our own in the forest. What's wrong?" "There is something in this forest that should not be here." Naruto's voice had changed. Subtle, but Sakura and Sasuke both noticed. The warmth was still there, but underneath it, steel. Cold, hard, admiral steel. A presence, old, powerful. It reeks of death and the graves of children. Sakura paled. "What does that mean?" "It means we should find our scroll quickly and leave." They found an opposing team within 20 minutes. The team from Rain, 3 genin who thought they were tough because they could mold water into projectiles. Naruto flicked his wrist. Gravity crush. All 3 hit the ground. Sakura took their scroll while they were pinned. Team 7 moved on. They made it to the tower in the center of the forest in record time. But the dark presence was moving too. Following them, patient, hungry. It found them in a clearing, 30 minutes from the tower. The wind died. The animals went silent. Even the insects stopped buzzing. The forest held its breath. And Orochimaru of the Sannin stepped out of a tree like a snake shedding skin. He wore the face of a grass ninja, a disguise so good it would fool any eye. But it could not fool the observation haki of an admiral. Naruto had felt the truth of this creature the moment it entered his range. The soul underneath the skin was ancient, corrupt, brilliant, and utterly fundamentally wrong. My, Orochimaru said, his voice a silk-wrapped razor. What interesting prey. The last Uchiha, a girl, and... His yellow eyes fixed on Naruto, a blind child with a cane. How quaint. Sasuke tensed. Sakura backed up. The killing intent was suffocating, a wave of horror that pressed down on the clearing like a physical weight, paralyzing, overwhelming. Sakura dropped to her knees, gasping. Sasuke locked up, his body rigid, his mind trapped in a vision of his own death played on repeat. Orochimaru's killing intent was S-class, refined over decades, strong enough to make veteran Jonin hesitate. Naruto stood untouched. He stood in the center of the killing intent like a rock in a river. It parted around him. It could not reach him, because Naruto Uzumaki had stood in the presence of Yonko. He had felt the haki of emperors who shook the heavens with their will. Orochimaru's killing intent was a candle held against the memory of the sun. "You reek," Naruto said calmly, "of the graves of children." Orochimaru's smile faltered by a fraction. A fraction! That was significant. The snake Sanin did not lose composure. "Interesting. You resist my intent. How unusual for a genin." His tongue slid out, long, purple, obscene, and licked his lips. "I came for the Uchiha boy, but perhaps you have something worth taking too. You will take nothing from this team." Naruto stepped forward. His cane sword tapped the ground. "I suggest you leave." Orochimaru laughed. "Or what?" He summoned the snake. A massive serpent erupted from the ground. A boss summon, easily 50 meters long, scales like armor plates, fangs the size of a grown man. It rose above the canopy, blotting out the sky, and lunged for Team 7 with a hiss that shook the trees. Naruto pointed at it. Gravity crush, 100 times. The snake hit the ground. There was no fight. There was no struggle. There was no dramatic exchange. 100 times normal gravity applied to a living creature meant the snake's own body weight, already massive, became a prison of compressed flesh and bone. It slammed into the forest floor so hard the impact left a crater 20 meters wide and 3 meters deep. Trees fell. The ground fractured in spiderweb patterns radiating outward. The snake's body compressed flat, its bones cracking under its own weight, its hiss becoming a wheeze, becoming silence, dead. Crushed under its own existence. Instant, Orochimaru's smile vanished. For the first time in decades, perhaps for the first time since he had faced the third Hokage in combat, something cold and unfamiliar slithered through Orochimaru's chest. It took him a moment to identify it because it had been so long. Fear. "What?" Orochimaru started. Naruto released his gravity field outward. Gravito. The clearing became a compression chamber. Gravity multiplied in every direction. Trees groaned and snapped. The ground buckled. Leaves that were falling from the canopy hit the earth like lead weights. And Orochimaru, the immortal serpent, the defector, the man who had spent a lifetime making himself unkillable, felt his knees buckle. He dropped. One knee hit the ground, then the other. His hands pressed against the earth, clawing for stability, his arms shaking under the strain. His disguise cracked, the grass ninja's face peeling away to reveal the pale, snake-like features underneath. His yellow eyes were wide. His pupils were slits. His breath came in short, ragged gasps. He could not stand. Orochimaru, who had fought Hanzo and survived, who had betrayed a village and built an empire in the shadows, who had cheated death itself through forbidden jutsu, was on his knees in the dirt, pinned by a child. "Impossible," Orochimaru hissed. "This pressure, this is not chakra. What is this?" Naruto walked toward him, each step deliberate, each tap of the cane a drumbeat. He stopped 3 feet from the kneeling Sanin and tilted his head. "You have spent your life taking from others, Orochimaru." Naruto's voice was steady and gentle, a grandfather's voice. "Bodies, eyes, souls. You consume the young and wear their skins. You call it immortality. I call it the worst kind of cowardice." Orochimaru's face twisted. Rage and fear fighting for dominance. You have no idea what I am. I know exactly what you are. You are a man who fears death so deeply that he has already died inside and forces the living to join him." Naruto paused. "The dice will decide your fate." He rolled the dice on his open palm. They tumbled, clicked, and settled. 3 and 4. 7, Naruto said. "An auspicious number. The dice say you live today." He released the gravity. Orochimaru gasped, sucking in air, his body trembling. He staggered to his feet and backed away. Actually backed away, retreating, a predator suddenly aware it was in the territory of something far larger. "What are you?" Orochimaru whispered. "A boy with strong opinions about justice." Orochimaru stared at the blind child for a long, calculating moment. His mind, brilliant, twisted, endlessly adaptive, was already recategorizing. This was not a genin. This was not a jinchuriki. This was something outside his extensive knowledge. Something that rewrote the power scale he had spent his entire life climbing. "Blind god," Orochimaru murmured almost to himself. "The shinobi world has birthed a blind god." He melted into the ground, gone. His presence fading from Naruto's observation haki like a candle being snuffed, not extinguished, just distant, retreating at high speed. Naruto turned back to his team. Sasuke was on his feet, breathing hard, the killing intense paralysis fading. His Sharingan was active, 2 tomoe in each eye, awakened by the terror of the moment. He was staring at Naruto with an expression that defied description. Sakura was sitting on the ground, hugging her knees, shaking but conscious. She looked up at Naruto as he approached. Was that who I think it was? Orochimaru of the Sannin. Yes! And you just made him kneel? Gravity is impartial, Sakura-san. It does not care about reputation. Sakura let out a breath that was half laugh, half whimper. We're gonna die following you, aren't we? On the contrary, you will live very long lives. I will make certain of it. He said it simply, without bravado, without fanfare. The way a man states a fact. Sakura believed him. She did not know why, but she believed him completely. Sasuke said nothing. His hands were shaking, not from Orochimaru's killing intent that had faded. They were shaking because he had just watched Naruto pin a Sannin to the ground with the same casual effort Sasuke used to tie his sandals. The gap between them was not a canyon anymore. It was the distance between the earth and the stars, something dark and hungry twisted in Sasuke's chest. Not admiration, not gratitude. Something older, something Uchiha. They made it to the tower. They passed the second stage. The Chunin exams moved to the final round. The Chunin exam finals were held in the great arena at the center of Konoha, a massive coliseum built to showcase the next generation of shinobi to the assembled leaders of the 5 nations. The stands were packed. Civilians, shinobi, diplomats, clan heads, village elders. The Kazekage sat beside the Hokage in the VIP box, his face hidden behind his robes, his presence radiating the kind of political tension that made Anbu operatives sweat. The preliminary matches had thinned the field. The brackets were set. And the match that every spectator, every shinobi, and every intelligence operative in the building was waiting for was printed in clean black ink on the tournament board. Naruto Uzumaki versus Neji Hyuga. The arena buzzed. Rumors about Naruto had spread. The meteor, the bridge, the forest of death. But rumors are easy to dismiss. Seeing is believing. And the entire shinobi world was about to see. Neji Hyuga descended the arena stairs with the composed grace of the Hyuga prodigy. His hair was long and black, tied in a loose tail. His Byakugan was already active, pale eyes bulging with veins, seeing chakra, seeing tenketsu, seeing the 3 and 61 pressure points in every human body with the precision of a surgeon reading an X-ray. He looked at Naruto Uzumaki and saw nothing he respected. A boy in a purple kimono, a cane sword, closed, scarred eyes. No visible chakra network activity. No defensive stance. No aggression. Just a blind kid standing in the center of the arena smiling softly, holding a pair of wooden dice. So, Neji said, his voice carrying across the arena with cold disdain. They have matched me against the blind failure. The crowd murmured. The Hyuga elders in the stands watched with casual interest. They expected this to be quick. A prodigy of the Byakugan against a blind orphan? It was barely a match. Naruto tilted his head. Neji-san, it is good to meet you. Save your pleasantries. You were fated to lose this match the moment the bracket was drawn. Neji's voice sharpened. The ideology poured out. The same speech he had given 100 times. The same poison that the Hyuga clan's rigid hierarchy had dripped into his soul since birth. Fate is absolute. It determines everything. Who is strong? Who is weak? Who wins? Who loses? You are blind. You are an orphan. You were born a failure, and no amount of pretending will change your destiny. The crowd was quiet. Some nodded. Civilians who believed in bloodlines and hierarchy. Some winced. Shinobi who had seen Neji's talent, but not his cruelty. In the stands, Hinata Hyuga pressed her hands together and watched with wide, worried eyes. She knew what Neji could do. She had felt it firsthand. The 64 palms, the rotation, systematic destruction of a human body's ability to fight. Rock Lee, bandaged and healing from his own brutal prelim match, clenched his fist. Naruto-kun, he whispered. Show him fate is wrong. Tenten watched with arms crossed, brow furrowed. She had trained with Neji for a year. She knew how strong he was. She could not imagine a blind genin surviving 5 minutes against him. In the VIP box, Hiruzen puffed his pipe and said nothing. His eyes were sharp. Beside him, the Kazekage leaned forward. An interesting matchup, Hokage Dono. The Hyuga prodigy against a blind child. Surely this will be brief. Perhaps, Hiruzen said. The word carried a weight that made the Kazekage glance at him. In the arena, Naruto listened to Neji's speech. He let every word land. He did not interrupt. He did not argue. When Neji finished, chest heaving slightly with righteous conviction, Naruto rolled his dice. Click, clatter. Settle, 6 and 6. You are a talented young man, Neji-san, Naruto said. His voice was warm, almost kind. Your eyes see many things, the chakra pathways, the pressure points, the weaknesses of the human body. Impressive, truly. Then you understand you cannot win. I understand that you have the eyes of a hawk. Naruto paused. He sheathed his dice in his sleeve. His hand settled on his cane sword. And you see less than a blind man. The crowd stirred. The Hyuga elders stiffened. Neji's jaw tightened. What did you say? Your eyes show you everything about a person's body and nothing about their soul. You see chakra points and call it truth. You see bloodlines and call it destiny. But you are blind, Neji-san. Blind to the most important thing of all. That fate is a story the powerful tell the powerless to keep them still. Naruto's smile widened by a fraction. Allow me to open your eyes. The proctor called the match. Begin. Neji attacked. He launched forward. Fast, precise, the gentle fist striking posture perfect. His Byakugan saw Naruto's Tenketsu. He mapped his attack. He would close the chakra points in sequence. Arms first, then torso, then legs. Systematic, efficient, fate made physical. 8 trigrams, 64 palms. 2 strikes, 4, 8, 16. Neji's hands blurred, each palm thrust aimed at a specific pressure point with pinpoint accuracy. The kind of technique that required years of training in the eyes of a Hyuga to execute. Naruto dodged every single strike. He moved like smoke. His body shifted, an inch here, a lean there, a tilt of the head, a roll of the shoulder. Minimal, effortless. Each palm thrust passed through air where Naruto had been a microsecond before. Neji's Byakugan could see every point. His body could reach every point. But Naruto was simply not there when the strike arrived. Observation haki. The ability to read intent, to feel the beginning of an action before the body executes it. Every strike Neji threw was telegraphed, not by his body, which was flawless, but by his mind. The decision to strike appeared in his intent a fraction of a second before the muscles fired. Naruto read each one like reading a book written in large print. 32. 64. Neji completed the full sequence, not a single palm had connected. The crowd gasped. The Hyuga elders were on their feet. Hiyashi Hyuga, Neji's uncle, head of the clan, was standing, Byakugan active, staring at the arena floor with an expression that looked like someone had slapped him. Neji stumbled back, panting. His eyes were wide. The Byakugan showed him everything. Naruto's Tenketsu, his stance, the air currents around his body, and none of it explained what had just happened. How? Neji gasped. You are blind. You cannot see my strikes. I do not need to see them, Neji-san. I can feel them. Naruto had not moved from his original position. His feet were in the same spot. He had dodged 64 precision strikes without taking a single step. Your hands announce their intentions before they move. Your spirit telegraphs every strike. You are loud, Neji-san. Louder than you know. Neji's face twisted. Rage, humiliation, the twin engines of a proud man who has just been shown that his greatest weapon is useless. Rotation! Neji screamed, and chakra exploded from every Tenketsu in his body. He spun. The Kaiden, the 8 trigrams palm rotation. The Hyuga's ultimate defensive technique. A dome of spinning chakra that deflected any attack, any projectile, any technique. The arena floor cracked under the force. Wind whipped outward. Dust rose. The crowd cheered. This was the Hyuga's trump card. The technique reserved for the main branch, stolen and mastered by Neji through sheer genius. An impenetrable defense. Naruto drew his cane sword. He walked toward the spinning dome. Step by step. Calm, unhurried. The wind from the rotation whipped his kimono. The dust stung against his scarred face. He smiled. He placed the flat of his cane sword on top of the spinning chakra dome. Gravity is absolute, he said softly. Even chakra obeys. He pushed down. The rotation collapsed. The spinning chakra dome, an impenetrable defense. A technique that had never been breached in the history of the Hyuga clan, crumpled like a tin can under a boot. The gravitational force from Naruto's blade multiplied the weight on the dome by a factor so extreme that the rotation could not sustain itself. The spinning stopped. The chakra dispersed. Neji's body was driven into the arena floor with a crack that echoed through the silent coliseum. The floor shattered. A crater, 3 meters wide, 2 meters deep, formed beneath Neji's body. He lay at the bottom of it, face down, arms spread, unable to move. The gravity pressed down on every inch of him. His bones groaned. His muscles screamed. His Byakugan was still active, and it showed him something it had never shown him before. Nothing useful. There was no chakra point to strike on a boy who did not use chakra for this technique. There was no tenketsu to close on a gravitational field. The Byakugan, the all-seeing eye, the pride of the Hyuga, the proof of Neji's death superiority, was completely, utterly, fundamentally useless. Naruto knelt beside the crater. He looked down at Neji, blind eyes closed, scarred face serene. Fate is a cage, Neji-san, and cages are built by men, not gods. His voice was gentle, compassionate, the voice of a man who understood suffering because he had chosen his own. You are talented, brilliant even, but your talent has been twisted by the people who should have nurtured it. The Hyuga system, the main branch, the branch family, the seal on your forehead, that is not fate. That is cruelty, and cruelty can be broken. He released the gravity. Neji gasped, sucking in air, his body trembling. He lay in the crater, looking up at the blind boy who had dismantled him completely. His offense, his defense, his ideology in under 2 minutes. I am not. Neji's voice cracked. I am not a failure? You were never a failure, Neji-san. You were a prisoner. There is a difference. The proctor called the match. Winner, Naruto Uzumaki. The crowd erupted. It was not the polite applause of a standard match victory. It was a roar, a full-throated knock, stadium-shaking roar that came from the gut of every person in the stands who had just watched the impossible. Civilians who had come expecting to see a blind orphan humiliated were on their feet, screaming. Shinobi who had dismissed the rumors were gripping their seat rests with white knuckles. The Hyuga elders were ashen. Hiyashi Hyuga sat down slowly, his face unreadable, his Byakugan deactivating with a soft pulse. In the stands, Rock Lee was weeping openly, his bandaged fist raised. That is the power of youth. Neji, you see, fate can be defeated. Lee, please stop crying on me, Tenten said, but she was grinning. Widely, Hinata pressed her hands to her chest. Her eyes were shining. She whispered something, too soft for anyone to hear. But observation haki has no volume limit. Naruto caught it from the arena floor. Thank you, Naruto-kun. He tilted his head toward the stands and smiled. In the VIP box, the Kazekage was very still. That boy defeated the Hyuga prodigy without using a single standard shinobi technique. Yes, Hiruzen said, puffing his pipe. He did. What is he? He is Naruto Uzumaki. Hiruzen's voice carried a note of quiet pride that surprised even himself. And he is just getting started. Events moved quickly after the Chunin exams. The invasion, Orochimaru's betrayal, the Sand Sound Alliance. Naruto felt it all coming. The dark intentions, the hidden soldiers, the snake coiling beneath Konoha's foundations. He warned Kakashi. Kakashi warned the Hokage. Preparations were made. When the genjutsu fell over the stadium and enemy shinobi attacked, Naruto was already standing. He expanded his gravity field over the civilians in his section. Every enemy combatant within 50 meters of him hit the ground instantly. Gravity Crush applied selectively, targeting only those with hostile intent, leaving allies and civilians untouched. Observation haki made the distinction instant, effortless. The invasion was contained faster than anyone expected. Naruto could not be everywhere. He was one person, and Konoha was a large village. But his section of the arena was a fortress of compressed gravity, where no enemy could stand. No weapon could be swung, and no civilian was harmed. Hiruzen fought Orochimaru on the rooftop. The old Hokage traded his life for the village. The Reaper Death Seal, a sacrifice born of love and duty and the weight of too many years of regret. Naruto felt it happen, felt Hiruzen's life force extinguish, a candle blown out, warm to the last flicker. He stopped fighting. He stood in the middle of the cratered arena floor, surrounded by the pinned bodies of enemy shinobi, and bowed his head. Rest well, old man, he said softly. Your justice was flawed, but it was yours, and you gave everything for it. That is worthy of honor. A tear ran down his scarred cheek. The first tear anyone had ever seen Naruto Uzumaki shed. He wiped it away, straightened his kimono, and got back to work. The village mourned. Tsunade was retrieved to become the 5th Hokage. Jiraiya brought her back, along with stories about a mission that involved Itachi Uchiha and his partner Kisame appearing in the village. Naruto was not present for that encounter. He regretted it. He would have liked to feel Itachi's intent with observation haki, to read the truth of the man who murdered his clan. When Tsunade was installed as Hokage, She reviewed every file on Naruto with the same sharp medical eye she applied to everything. She looked at the mission reports, the crater data, the seismic readings from the meteor, the eyewitness accounts. She put down the file and looked at Shizune. This kid dropped a meteor. Yes, Tsunade-sama, an actual meteor from space. The seismographs confirmed it. The crater in Wave Country is still there. Fishermen use it as a landmark. Tsunade picked up her sake, drank the whole cup, poured another. And he's 13. Yes. Fine, I'm not dealing with this sober. She did eventually meet Naruto. He bowed. He offered her dice, a gift, carved from the wood of the great Naruto bridge. For when decisions are difficult, Hokage-sama, the dice have no ego. Tsunade looked at the blind boy with the crossed scars and the gentle smile and the cane sword and the purple kimono, and she thought, this kid is going to be the most powerful shinobi in history and he's going to be polite about it. I like you, brat, she said. The feeling is mutual, Hokage-sama. The retrieval mission came on a Tuesday. Sasuke was gone. He left at night. Packed nothing, said nothing. Just walked out of the village, following Orochimaru's sound for into the darkness, driven by the hunger that had been eating him alive since the day Naruto pinned Kakashi to the ground with a whisper, power. Sasuke needed power. Power to kill Itachi. Power to close the gap. Power that Konoha could not give him because no one in Konoha possessed what Naruto possessed. And if Sasuke could not match the blind boy through conventional means, he would take the unconventional path. Orochimaru offered the curse mark, the path of darkness. The shortcut, Sasuke took it. The retrieval team was assembled, Shikamaru Nara leading, with Choji, Neji, Kiba, and Naruto. A squad of genin sent to bring back a defect because no one else was available. Naruto had agreed immediately. No hesitation, no dramatics. He simply picked up his cane sword, tucked his dice into his sleeve, and said, I will bring him back. Not we, he said I. Shikamaru looked at Naruto and decided not to argue. He had seen the Chunin exam footage. He was a genius. He knew when to lead and when to let the strongest person in the room do what they did best. The sound for Orochimaru's elite bodyguards were formidable. They carried the coffin containing Sasuke's transforming body through the forests at high speed, laying traps, fighting rearguard actions, buying time for the curse mark to complete its work. One by one, the retrieval team peeled off to fight them. Choji stayed behind to fight Jirobo. Neji stayed to fight Kidomaru. Kiba stayed to fight Sakon and Ukon. Shikamaru stayed to fight Tayuya. They all fought bravely. They all nearly died. They would all survive, but barely, and only because Sand Shinobi arrived as backup, sent by a newly reformed Gaara. Naruto did not stay for any of these fights. He felt his teammates engage. He felt their determination, their fear, their resolve. He sent them a silent promise. Survive. I will handle the rest. He passed through the forest like a ghost. The Sound 4 members who tried to stop him found their bodies pressed into the earth by a casual wave of his hand. Gravity crush. Brief, controlled, non-lethal. He was not here for them. He was here for Sasuke. He arrived at the Valley of the End. The two statues of Madara and Hashirama loomed on either side of the waterfall, a monument to the rivalry that had defined the shinobi world, two great figures frozen in combat for eternity. The water between them fell in a thunderous curtain, white and roaring, sending mist into the air. Sasuke stood on Madara's head. The curse mark had fully activated. His skin was gray. Black markings spread across his body like roots. His eyes were the red of the Sharingan. 3 Tomoe spinning, but they were wrong. Darker, poisoned by the curse mark's influence. Wings, hand-shaped, grotesque, spread from his back, lifting him slightly, giving him the silhouette of a demon. Curse mark version 2. Orochimaru's gift. The shortcut to power. He looked down at Naruto and laughed. You came. Of course I came. Naruto stood on Hashirama's head opposite. His purple kimono rustled in the mist. His cane sword rested against his shoulder. His face was not angry. It was sorrowful, deeply, profoundly sorrowful. You are my comrade, Sasuke. Where else would I be? Comrade. Sasuke's voice was acidic. Don't make me laugh. You were never my comrade. You were my measuring stick. The thing I couldn't reach. The blind kid who could pull stars from the sky while I struggled to keep up. His Sharingan blazed. Konoha can't give me what I need, only power can. And if you're here to stop me, I am here because it is right. Right? Sasuke charged the Chidori. Black lightning crackled around his hand, corrupted by the curse mark, stronger, denser, screaming with electrical fury. The technique painted his arm in crawling light. You and your justice, your dice, your calm, your manners, your blindness. You don't see anything, Naruto. You don't see the world the way it really is. Naruto drew his cane sword. The blade caught the fading light. His voice was quiet, but it carried over the roar of the waterfall with perfect clarity. I see a boy walking into the abyss. He settled into his stance, one hand on the hilt, blade angled down, weight centered. And as a protector of justice, I will not allow it. Sasuke screamed and launched himself from Madara's head. He crossed the gap in an instant. Curse mark V2 speed faster than a normal genin could track. The black Chidori howling in his hand, aimed at Naruto's chest. His wings flared. His Sharingan spun. Every ounce of rage, frustration, jealousy, and Uchiha darkness poured into the strike. Naruto swung upward. Gravity blade, raging tiger. The cane sword cut an arc from low to high, and from the edge of the blade, a localized gravitational storm erupted. It was not a wave, it was a vortex, a spiraling, churning, apocalyptic reversal of gravity that tore the world apart. The waterfall exploded. The water did not just stop, it reversed. Millions of gallons of water ripped upward from the riverbed, rising into the sky in enormous, twisting columns, catching the sunset light, turning gold and orange and red. The mist became a cloud. The spray became rain, falling upward, rising into the heavens. Sasuke's Chidori dispersed. The black lightning scattered as the gravitational pressure crushed the chakra formation. His body was caught in the vortex, spun, pressed, the curse mark flickering as his muscles failed under the strain. He gasped. His wings crumpled. His Sharingan flickered. Naruto, he screamed. I'm sorry, Sasuke. Naruto's voice was sorrowful and steady. He held the blade pointed skyward as the gravitational storm raged around them both. Water rising, stone cracking, the statues of Madara and Hashirama splintering under the pressure. But you are wrong. I may be blind, but I see you clearer than anyone ever has. He brought his sword down. The storm responded. The surrounding cliffs cracked. Massive sections of rock, the size of houses, the size of buildings, tore free and rose into the air, caught by Naruto's gravitational authority. He held them there for a heartbeat. The valley of the end transformed into a floating ruin, water and stone orbiting a blind boy in a purple kimono. Then he brought them down. The rock fell on Sasuke. Not to kill, Naruto guided every piece, every fragment, layering them with precise control, burying the Uchiha under tons of stone that pinned him completely, covered him from neck to feet, suppressing the curse mark under sheer weight. Sasuke's rage-fueled chakra burned against the rock and failed. The curse mark receded. The gray skin returned to pale. The wings dissolved. The Sharingan faded to black. Sasuke lay in a coffin of stone, conscious, breathing, unable to move. The fight was over. It had lasted 12 seconds. Naruto landed softly on a piece of floating rubble. The water was still suspended in the air around them. A galaxy of droplets catching the sunset, turning the ruined valley into something that should have been ugly, but was instead heartbreakingly beautiful. He sheathed his cane sword. Click. The valley settled. Stone drifted down gently. Water returned to its course. The waterfall resuming its eternal fall, as though nothing had happened, except for the cracks in the statues and the massive debris field that marked the spot where a blind boy had ended a fight with a swing and a prayer. Naruto walked to where Sasuke lay buried. He knelt beside the stone coffin and looked down at the Uchiha's face with blind eyes that saw everything. Sasuke was crying. The tears cut tracks through the dirt and blood on his face. His lips were twisted, not with rage anymore, with something rawer. Why? Sasuke whispered. Why are you so strong? Why do you have everything? You're blind. You're an orphan. You have nothing. So why are you the one who can do all this? Naruto was quiet for a long time. The waterfall roared. The sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and purple. I have nothing, Naruto agreed. And that is why I protect everything. Because a man who has nothing to lose and everything to fight for is the most dangerous man in the world. He reached down and placed his hand on Sasuke's forehead. Gentle, warm. But I did not come here to fight you, Sasuke. I came here to bring you home. He lifted the stone away. Not all at once, piece by piece, floating them aside with careful gravity, freeing Sasuke's limbs, his torso, his legs. The Uchiha was battered, exhausted. The curse mark was dormant, suppressed, its poison beaten back by the sheer physical reality of being buried under a mountain. Naruto lifted Sasuke's unconscious body with gravity. The Uchiha floated gently into the air, held by invisible hands, drifting toward Naruto's side. Naruto placed Sasuke across his shoulder like a man carrying a wounded comrade. The old way, the soldier's way. He rose. Gravity lifted the rubble beneath his feet, forming a platform. He floated upward, above the valley of the end, above the shattered statues, above the mist and the spray and the ruin. The sunset blazed behind him. The sky was a canvas of fire. Below, the valley was scarred but healing. Water filling the craters, smoothing the edges, nature already beginning its patient work of erasing the evidence of titans clashing. Naruto Uzumaki hovered above the valley of the end, blind, scarred, smiling softly. His purple kimono fluttered in the wind. His cane sword was sheathed at his hip. The unconscious body of his broken friend rested on his shoulder. He turned toward Konoha, toward home, toward the future. "Forgive me for my roughness, friend," he said quietly, "but true justice is heavy." He floated forward. The wind carried him. The sun set behind him. And the Valley of the End, monument to the first great rivalry in shinobi history, had just witnessed the beginning of something far greater. The blind boy carried his friend home, and the shinobi world would never be the same. Below, in the ruins, a single pair of dice lay on a flat stone where they had fallen from Naruto's sleeve during the battle. Both faces showed 6. The wind blew. The dice did not move. Some forces are beyond luck. They arrived at Konoha's gates at dawn. The sky was pale gold, and the village was still mourning, still rebuilding, still absorbing the aftershocks of the invasion and the defection. Izumo and Kotetsu, the eternal gate guards, looked up from their post and saw a blind boy in a purple kimono floating down from the sky on a platform of hovering stone, carrying the last Uchiha on his back. Izumo dropped his newspaper. Kotetsu dropped his coffee. Yeah. Did he just, yeah. Should we? Just open the gate, man. Naruto touched down softly inside the gates. He set Sasuke's body down gently, lowering him onto a stretcher that Kotetsu scrambled to assemble and straightened his kimono. "Please inform the Hokage that the retrieval mission was successful," Naruto said. "Sasuke Uchiha has been recovered. He will need medical attention and, in time, a long conversation about choices." He paused. "Also, the Valley of the End may need some maintenance. I apologize for the property damage." He walked toward the hospital, cane tapping the street. Click, click, click. The village woke around him. People stepped out of their homes, drawn by the sound of whispered gossip spreading at the speed of light. They saw the blind boy in the purple kimono walking calmly down the main street, scarred face tilted toward the morning sun. Some of them remembered spitting at this boy, calling him a demon, throwing rotten food at his window and cursing his existence. None of them did that now. They watched him pass in silence. And if any of them felt shame, well, that was between them and their conscience. Naruto smiled and kept walking. The sun was warm. The dice were lucky. And justice, humane, heavy, absolute, had been served. Tsunade met Naruto in her office that afternoon. She had already reviewed the retrieval team's medical reports. Choji was in critical condition. Neji was badly wounded. Kiba was stable. Shikamaru had minor injuries. Sasuke was unconscious, curse mark dormant, body battered but intact. "They tell me you went through the Valley of the End," Tsunade said. "I did. They tell me you reversed the waterfall." Briefly. "They tell me you buried Sasuke under approximately 12 tons of rock. It was closer to 15, Hokage-sama. I wanted to be thorough with the curse mark." Tsunade poured 2 cups of sake. She slid one across the desk. Naruto, of course, could not see it, but he felt the ceramic, the liquid, the warmth. He picked it up. "You're 13. You shouldn't be drinking. And you are the Hokage. You should not be drinking at 2 in the afternoon." Tsunade stared at him. Then she laughed. Loud, genuine. The kind of laugh that shakes the shoulders and clears the soul. "All right, brat, I'll give you that one." She raised her cup. "To Konoha." "To justice," Naruto said. They drank. Tsunade set down her cup and looked at the blind boy across her desk. This impossible, gentle, world-shaking child who talked like a grandfather and hit like a natural disaster. Naruto. "Yes, Hokage-sama? You know what's coming, right? The world is going to find out about you. Other villages, the Akatsuki, Everyone. What you can do, it changes everything. The balance of power between nations, the role of Jinchuriki, the definition of what a shinobi even is. Naruto nodded slowly. His smile was soft, warm, the same smile he had worn when he blinded himself at 7 years old and told the Hokage it was a small price for peace. Let them come, he said. Justice does not hide. Justice does not run. If they bring war, I will bring weight. He paused, rolling the dice one final time in his palm. They landed, and the dice have never let me down. The morning light caught his scarred face, his sealed eyes, his quiet smile. Behind him, through the Hokage's window, Konoha stretched out under the sun, battered, grieving, rebuilding. Alive, Naruto Uzumaki turned toward the window. He could feel every heartbeat in the village, every soul, every flicker of hope and every shadow of fear. He held them all in his awareness, the way the earth holds everything, patiently, completely, without complaint, an admiral reborn. A boy with no eyes and the weight of the sky. Jiraiya of the Sannin had seen many strange things in his long, improbable life. He had watched toads the size of houses spit fire. He had peeked into women's bathhouses across 4 countries and survived the resulting violence. He had trained a Hokage and buried him. He had drunk sake with warlords and arm-wrestled demons and written novels that made grown women blush and grown men hide under their pillows. He had never trained a student like Naruto Uzumaki. The 2.5 years they spent together were, by any rational measure, unlike any training period in the history of shinobi education. Jiraiya had planned a curriculum, summoning jutsu, sage mode, Rasengan variants, chakra control exercises to harness the 9 tails. He had a notebook full of techniques and timelines, color-coded, cross-referenced, the product of decades of experience in molding powerful young shinobi into weapons of war. On the first day, Naruto sat cross-legged on a rock overlooking the ocean outside a port town in the land of grass, rolled his dice and said, "I appreciate the thought, Jiraiya-sensei. Truly, but I have no need for jutsu. Everyone needs jutsu, kid. Gravity is the only jutsu I require. What I need is refinement, precision, the ability to hold a falling city in the air and set it down gently enough that the teacups inside do not rattle." He paused. "That, and I would like to improve my cooking. Ramen should be enjoyed properly, even on the road." Jiraiya had stared at the blind boy. This 13-year-old who talked like a retired general and carried the weight of the sky in his fingertips, and made a decision that saved them both a great deal of time. He stopped trying to teach Naruto how to fight. Instead, he taught him how to think. They traveled the continent. Jiraiya shared intelligence, the movements of the Akatsuki, the political currents between villages, the web of alliances and betrayals that held the shinobi world together like stitches in a wound. Naruto listened. He absorbed. He asked questions that made Jiraiya pause mid-sentence and reevaluate assumptions he had held for 20 years. "The Akatsuki collects Jinchuriki," Naruto said one evening, sitting by a campfire in the highlands of the land of Earth. "They extract the tailed beasts. To what end?" "Power," Jiraiya said. "What else?" "Power is a means. It is never an end. A man who collects weapons is either building an army or building a threat. The Akatsuki is small, 10 members. Too small for an army, so they are building a threat. The question is, against whom?" Naruto rolled his dice. "And who profits from a world afraid?" Jiraiya drank his sake and looked at this boy who should have been chasing girls and pulling pranks, and thought, he is going to reshape the world, and the world has no idea it is already too late to stop him. The training itself was inhuman. Naruto woke before dawn every day and expanded his observation haki to its maximum range, a radius that grew steadily over the months, from 6 blocks to a mile to 5 miles to 10. By the end of the first year, he could sense individual heartbeats from the center of a town to its outermost farms. By the end of the second year, he could identify people by their emotional signature alone, the specific frequency of their fear, their joy, their hatred, their love. Every soul had a color in his mind, a texture, a weight. The world was a symphony of invisible fire, and Naruto heard every note. His gravitational control sharpened to a degree that bordered on absurd. He could float a grain of rice from a bowl and hold it suspended above his chopstick without disturbing the grains beside it. He could increase gravity in a sphere the width of a coin, precise enough to pin a fly to a table without killing it. He could lift a building. He could crush a mountain. The range of his power stretched from the infinitely delicate to the catastrophically enormous, and the transition between them was seamless armament. Haki hardened around his blade like a second skin, invisible, impenetrable, turning the cane sword's edge into something that could cut through anything the shinobi world had to offer. He sparred with Jiraiya once, early in their travels, and the Toad Sage attacked with a Rasengan at full power. Naruto met it with the flat of his haki-coated blade. The Rasengan shattered. Jiraiya's wrist ached for a week. They did not spar again. But Naruto's greatest development during those 2.5 years was invisible to any observer. It happened inside him, in the quiet space between his heartbeat and the next, in the place where the memories of Issho lived alongside the life of Naruto Uzumaki. He made peace with both. He was Issho. He was Naruto. He was an admiral who had sailed the Grand Line and a boy who had grown up hated in a village of hypocrites. He was a man who had blinded himself twice, once in outrage, once in sorrow, and found clarity in the darkness both times. He carried 2 lifetimes of experience, and instead of being crushed by the weight, he folded them together like 2 hands clasping. When Naruto Uzumaki returned to Konoha at the age of 15, he was taller. His jaw was sharper. His shoulders were broader. The purple kimono was new, deeper in color, finer in weave, tailored to his growing frame. The cane sword was the same. The dice were the same. The cross scars over his sealed eyes were the same. He was still smiling. The gates of Konoha stood open in the afternoon light. Izumo and Kotetsu looked up from their post, older now, a little grayer, still drinking the same terrible coffee. Is that? Yeah. He's taller. Yeah. Still blind. Still terrifying. Naruto tapped his way through the gate and into the village he had left behind. His observation haki bloomed outward like a flower opening. And the village sang to him. Thousands of heartbeats. Thousands of auras. The warm hum of a living place, scarred and rebuilt, carrying on. He found Sakura first. She was standing outside the hospital, arms full of medical scrolls, her hair shorter now, her frame lean and powerful from 2 years of training under Tsunade. She had become something impressive in his absence, a medical kunoichi of real skill, with fists that could crack boulders and a mind that could piece a human body back together from the cellular level up. She dropped the scrolls. Naruto? Sakura-san. He bowed his head, the gentle smile, the voice like warm tea. You look well. Your aura has deepened. Tsunade-sama has taught you admirably. How can you tell I look well? You're blind. You carry yourself differently. Your heartbeat is strong and steady. Your breathing is controlled. And you no longer radiate the nervous energy of someone unsure of her place. He tilted his head. You have found your place, Sakura-san. That is a beautiful thing. Sakura's eyes glistened. She wiped them quickly. She was a professional now, and professionals did not cry in the street. But she crossed the distance between them and hugged him. Brief, fierce, the kind of hug that says I am glad you exist, and I will deny this later in equal measure. Welcome home, you weird, blind, purple-wearing disaster, she muttered into his shoulder. It is good to be home. Kakashi found him next, or rather, Naruto found Kakashi, because Kakashi was on a rooftop reading Ika Icha and pretending he was not aware of his former student's arrival, when in fact he had been aware of it for the last 20 minutes and had been strategically positioning himself to look casual. Yo, Kakashi said, raising a hand without looking up from his book. You were waiting for me, Kakashi-sensei. Your heartbeat elevated 3 minutes ago when I entered your range. Kakashi closed his book. His visible eye curved into its crescent smile. You've gotten better at that. You have gotten worse at hiding, Kakashi laughed, a real one. He dropped from the rooftop and landed beside Naruto, and for a moment they stood together, the teacher and the student, both older, both carrying more weight than they had 2 years ago. You look good, Naruto. You look tired, Kakashi-sensei. I'm always tired. Then rest. You have earned it. Something passed between them, unspoken, the way things between soldiers are often unspoken. Kakashi had spent 2.5 years wondering what the blind boy would become. He had his answer now. The presence Naruto carried was heavier, denser, like standing next to a planet that had learned to be polite. Naruto, Kakashi said, I should tell you about Sasuke. Naruto's smile did not change. His posture did not shift, but his aura, the invisible field of presence that every living thing within 100 meters could feel whether they knew it or not, went cold for one heartbeat. Just one. He left again, Naruto said, after you departed with Jiraiya. Orochimaru's people came for him. He went willingly. The curse mark was too deep, the pull too strong. Kakashi's voice was measured, careful. He's been with Orochimaru for 2 years now. Intel says he's gotten stronger. Intel also says he's gotten darker. I see. We've had teams looking for him. Nothing solid. Naruto reached into his kimono and pulled out his dice. He rolled them on his open palm. They clicked and tumbled and settled. 2 and 3. The dice say it is not yet time, Naruto said. His voice was warm. His smile was gentle. But underneath both, far underneath, in the deep bedrock of his aura, where only someone with supreme sensory abilities could reach, was something that did not smile at all. Something vast and patient and heavy as the ocean floor. When it is time, I will know, and I will go. Kakashi did not push it. He knew better. The days that followed were quiet ones. Naruto reacquainted himself with the village. He visited Ichiraku Ramen and sat at his old stool, and Tochi, the old ramen chef who had fed a hated orphan when no one else would, put a bowl in front of him without being asked. Miso, extra pork, on the house. Tochi-san, you are a man of unwavering principles. I have missed your ramen more than I can express. Just eat, kid. Naruto ate. He savored every bite. Some things were sacred, and ramen was chief among them. He visited the memorial stone where Kakashi spent his mornings. He knelt and placed his hand on the cold surface. He could not read the names, but observation haki could feel the residue of grief, years of it, layered like paint, the accumulated sorrow of every shinobi who had stood here and mourned. Heavy stone, Naruto said quietly. I hope you are at peace, all of you. He visited Hinata Hyuga. He did not plan to. His feet simply carried him past the Hyuga compound, and her aura reached out to him like a hand extended in the dark. She was training in the courtyard, the gentle fist. Her movements were sharper now, more confident, but her aura was the same. A quiet, steady warmth, like a candle that never flickered no matter how hard the wind blew. She sensed him, stopped mid-strike, turned toward the compound wall, her Byakugan activating on instinct. She saw him through the stone, his aura, that enormous, gentle, impossible gravity well that she had watched from afar since childhood, longing to step into its orbit. Naruto-kun, she whispered. He was already walking away, but his voice drifted back to her through the wall, carried by forces she could not explain. Your form has improved, Hinata-san. The spinning palm strike at the end needs a wider arc, but you are close. Hinata pressed both hands to her burning cheeks and sat down very quickly on the courtyard stones. Her cousin Neji, standing 10 meters away, stretching after his own training, looked at her with an expression that was equal parts sympathy and amusement. He is perceptive, Neji said. Breathe, Hinata-sama. She breathed. It did not help. It never helped. The message arrived on a Tuesday, Sunagakure, the hidden sand. Gaara, the 5th Kazekage, the boy of sand, the Jinchuriki who had found his own version of peace after a childhood of blood, had been taken. The Akatsuki had come for him. 2 members. They overwhelmed the sand's defenses, fought through an entire village, and took the Kazekage from his own tower. The intelligence was sparse and frantic, a clay bird in the sky, explosions, a puppeteer with a red scorpion. By the time the message reached Konoha, Gaara had been gone for hours. Naruto received the news in the Hokage's office. Tsunade delivered it herself. She watched his face as she spoke, the scarred, sealed eyes, the soft mouth, the gentle set of his jaw, and saw the moment the warmth left his expression. It did not leave entirely. Naruto Uzumaki was always warm, but the warmth shifted from the temperature of a hearth to the temperature of a forge. Something was being heated. Something was being sharpened. Gaara, Naruto said. Yes. When? Hours ago. We're assembling a team now. Naruto stood. He picked up his cane sword from where it rested against the wall. No, he tucked his dice into his sleeve. His movements were unhurried. They were always unhurried, but they carried a finality that made Tsunade's sake bottle rattle on her desk. I will need Sakura-san for medical support, and Kakashi-sensei for coordination. No one else. Naruto, this is the Akatsuki. We should send a full squad. A full squad will slow me down. Gaara is dying, Hokage-sama. I can feel it. He turned toward the window. His observation haki was already stretching outward, reaching, searching, straining toward the edge of the land of wind. He could not reach the sand from here. Not yet. But the urgency in his aura said his range was growing by the second. Every moment we spend assembling soldiers is a moment Gaara does not have. Tsunade looked at the blind young man standing in her office, radiating purpose like a star radiating heat, and made the same calculation every commander makes when they possess a weapon that renders conventional tactics obsolete. Go. Team Kakashi moved. They covered ground at a pace that should have taken 3 days and took 1.5. Naruto reduced his own gravity to near weightlessness and moved through the canopy like wind itself, silent, fast, each leap carrying him 100 meters, his body barely touching the branches before launching again. Kakashi and Sakura kept up through Shunshin and raw stamina, but even they were straining. At the border of the land of wind, they met the Sand's reinforcement team. Tamari, grim and worried, and Chiyo, the elder puppeteer, ancient and sharp-eyed and carrying more combat experience than everyone else present combined. Chiyo looked at Naruto with the appraising gaze of a woman who had seen everything the shinobi world had to offer and was still difficult to surprise. You are the gravity boy. I am Naruto Uzumaki. A pleasure, Chiyo-sama. Humph, you are polite for a weapon. Weapons do not have manners, Chiyo-sama. I am simply a man who asks gravity to cooperate. And does it? Always. Chiyo stared at him for a long moment, then snorted. I like this one. Let's move. They tracked the Akatsuki to a sealed cave in the river country between the sand and the stone, a massive boulder blocking the entrance, covered in barrier seals, designed to keep out any conventional force. The team gathered at the entrance, analyzing the seal, discussing strategies. Naruto stepped forward. The seal is impressive, he said, but it is affixed to rock, and rock answers to gravity. He placed his palm on the boulder. Gravito. The boulder did not shatter. It compressed. The entire massive stone folded inward like a piece of paper being crumpled, its molecular structure crushed under gravitational force so intense that the rock became a ball the size of a fist. The barrier seals, with no surface left to cling to, evaporated. The cave entrance stood open. Chiyo's eyebrows climbed toward her hairline. She said nothing, but her hand tightened on her scroll. Inside the cave, the light was dim and reddish, and the air smelled of old chakra and something worse, the metallic tang of a soul being torn apart. Gaara lay on a stone altar in the center of the cavern, pale, still, his sand armor crumbled away. A massive statue loomed behind him, its mouth open, the extraction ritual humming with dark energy. 2 figures stood guard. Deidara sat on his clay bird near the ceiling of the cave, legs crossed, blonde hair falling over one eye, his hands, the mouths in his palms chewing clay, working constantly. His grin was the grin of an artist about to unveil a masterpiece. He was Akatsuki's bomber, a man who believed destruction was the highest form of art and had the explosive power to back up the philosophy. Sasori of the red sand crouched within his puppet armor. Hiriko, the hunched grotesque shell that hid his true form. His tail curled overhead, dripping poison, scorpion-like and lethal. Inside, the master puppeteer waited with the patience of a man who had turned patience itself into a weapon. Well, well, Deidara said, looking down at the intruders with theatrical delight. Visitors, how rude of you to break our door, yeah. I apologize for the entrance, Naruto said. It was in the way. An apology from a leaf ninja? That's new. Deidara's grin widened. He reached into his clay pouch. Let me show you what real art looks like. He launched from his bird. His hands worked at blinding speed, shaping, molding, creating. Dozens of clay figures took form. Birds, spiders, centipedes, all of them packed with explosive chakra, all of them designed to detonate on impact with enough force to level a city block. He hurled them downward in a cascade of white shapes. Katsu! The cave filled with falling art. Dozens of clay bombs, armed and screaming toward the ground, each one a small apocalypse. Sakura threw herself behind a pillar. Kakashi sharing and spun, tracking, calculating, finding no good options. Chiyo and Tamari braced. Naruto tilted his head. Gravity reversal. The bombs stopped falling. Every single one. 47 clay explosives. Naruto's observation haki counted each one by the chakra signature inside. Reverse direction simultaneously. They floated upward, gently, smoothly, like balloons released by children at a festival. They drifted toward the cave ceiling, toward Deidara, toward the sky. Deidara's grin died on his face. What? My art? How are they? The bombs passed him. They exited the cave through the hole where the boulder had been. They rose into the open sky above the river country, climbing higher and higher, shrinking to dots against the blue. They detonated. The sky lit up. 47 explosions, chained together in a constellation of fire and sound, blooming harmlessly in the upper atmosphere like the world's most violent fireworks display. The shock waves rippled across the clouds. The sound reached the ground as a distant, rolling thunder. Inside the cave, not a speck of dust moved. Deidara hovered on his bird, staring at the sky where his art, his life's work, his philosophy made physical, his explosive genius had been sent back upward like garbage thrown into a bin. You. His voice cracked. You threw my art into the sky. It seemed the safest option, Naruto said. The cave has poor ventilation for explosions. My art is an explosion. That's the whole point. And it exploded very beautifully, Deidara-san. Far above anyone it could hurt. Naruto's cane sword tapped the ground. Now then. Naruto pointed his blade at Deidara. Gravity crush, downward fall. The gravity above Deidara's clay bird multiplied by a factor of 50. The bird crumpled, its wings folded, its body compressed. And Deidara, the mad bomber, Akatsuki's aerial specialist, the man who had fought the Kazekage to a standstill in the sky, was ripped from his perch and driven into the earth at a speed that his body was profoundly unequipped to survive. He hit the cave floor. The impact cratered the stone 3 meters deep. His clay bird slammed down on top of him, flattened, inert, a compressed disk of dead material. Deidara lay at the bottom of the crater, broken, gasping, his arms splayed, his eyes staring at the ceiling with an expression of total, absolute incomprehension. He was alive. Barely. His Akatsuki cloak was shredded, his ribs were cracked, one arm hung limp, blood ran from his nose and ears. My art, he wheezed. Was lovely, Naruto said, from a distance. Deidara's eyes rolled back. Unconscious, the cave went quiet for 2 full seconds. Sakura peered out from behind her pillar, mouth open. Kakashi lowered his headband over his Sharingan with the slow, deliberate motion of a man conserving his energy because he realized he was unnecessary. Chiyo gripped her puppet scroll and stared at Naruto's back with an expression that mixed horror with something that might have been admiration. Tamari whispered, "He just swatted an S-rank criminal out of the air like a fly." "Yes," Chiyo said. "He did." Sasori moved. Hiruko's tail whipped forward, a blur of iron and poison, aimed at Naruto's blind side. The attack was expert, timed to coincide with the moment of apparent distraction, the kind of precise assassination strike that had killed hundreds of shinobi across Sasori's long career. Naruto sidestepped it without turning his head. The tail passed through the space where his torso had been, missing by an inch. Observation Haki had read the puppeteer's intent before the chakra strings had even twitched. "You moved before I pulled the string," Sasori said from inside Hiruko. His voice was flat, analytical, the voice of a craftsman observing an anomaly. "That should be impossible. Many things should be impossible, Sasori-san. I have found that the word means less than people think." Sasori abandoned subtlety. Hiruko split open, and the true Sasori emerged, a young-looking man with red hair and dead eyes, a living puppet himself, his body converted into a weapon decades ago in pursuit of eternal art. He unfurled his scroll. 100 puppets poured forth, the red secret technique, the performance of 100 puppets, the technique that had toppled a nation. 100 humanoid figures, each armed, each poisoned, each controlled by invisible strings of chakra emanating from Sasori's core. They attacked as one, a wave of wood and metal, blades and needles, poison and precision, converging on Naruto from every angle. Naruto drew his cane sword. One swing. Gravity blade, fierce tiger. The crescent of gravitational force erupted from the blade's edge and expanded outward in a wave. It was wider than the one he had used against Zabuza, broader, more encompassing, calibrated to cover the full breadth of the puppet army. The wave hit every puppet in the cave was crushed flat, not broken, not scattered, crushed, compressed into the ground like tin cans under a steamroller. 100 masterworks of puppet engineering, each one a killing machine, each one representing years of Sasori's craft, were pressed into the stone floor in a single heartbeat. The sound was enormous, 100 simultaneous crunches of splintering wood and screaming metal, harmonizing into one great percussion of destruction. The cave floor was covered in a mosaic of flattened puppet remains. Arms, heads, blades, mechanisms, all of it two-dimensional, pressed into the rock like fossils. Sasori stood in the middle of the ruin. His 100 puppets were gone. His greatest technique, his life's work, his art, destroyed in a single swing. His hands were still raised, chakra strings connected to nothing, conducting an orchestra that no longer existed. His dead eyes widened. For the first time in decades, something moved behind them. Recognition. The understanding that he had encountered something his craft could not answer. Naruto walked toward him. The cane sword was sheathed, his free hand extended, palm forward. Gravito. Sasori's body was seized. The gravitational field locked him in place. Every joint, every mechanism, every inch of his puppet body pressed backward and pinned against the cave wall. The stone cracked around his outline. His arms were spread, his feet off the ground, crucified by gravity against the rock. "You are a man of great talent, Sasori-san," Naruto said, stopping before him. "But your art lacks something essential." "And what?" Sasori hissed, straining against the invisible force. "Would a blind child know about art? Art should make the world more beautiful. Yours makes it more empty." Naruto tilted his head. "Where is Gaara's soul? Is there still time?" Sasori stared at the blind boy for a long moment. Then, inexplicably, he laughed, a dry, hollow sound like sand in an hourglass. "The extraction is nearly complete. Your friend is dying. Perhaps already dead." His eyes narrowed. "And there is nothing your gravity can do about death." Naruto turned away. He moved to the altar where Gaara lay. Sakura was already there, her hands glowing green with medical chakra, running diagnostics, her face tightening with every second. "His chakra is almost gone," Sakura said. Her voice was steady, the trained composure of a medical ninja, but her hands shook at the edges. "The tailed beast has been partially extracted. The damage to his system is catastrophic. Naruto, he is still here," Naruto said. He placed his hand on Gaara's chest. His observation haki reached deep, past the body, past the failing organs, past the shattered chakra network, searching for the warmth of a soul. Faint, fading, but here. Chiyo stepped forward. The old woman moved with purpose now, the brittle energy of a lifetime's final decision radiating from her like heat from dying embers. She knelt on the other side of Gaara's body and placed her hands on his chest. "I have a technique," Chiyo said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were wet. "Tensei ninjutsu, the one's own life reincarnation, my life for his." "Chiyo-sama," Sakura started. "Do not argue with an old woman who has made her peace, child." Chiyo's hands began to glow, a different glow than medical chakra, warmer, deeper, carrying the weight of a life lived fully and offered freely. "I helped create the monster he carried. The least I can do is help him live without it." The technique began. Chiyo's life force flowed into Gaara, slow, steady, a river reversing its course. Her skin paled, her breathing shallowed. The price was being paid. Naruto watched through senses that saw more than eyes ever could. He felt Chiyo's life force leaving her body, a candle being poured from one vessel to another. He felt the resistance, the friction, the enormous energy cost of defying death, even briefly. He placed his hands over Chiyo's. "What are you doing?" Chiyo whispered. "Helping." Naruto's voice was soft. His gravity shifted. Micro-adjustments, invisible to anyone watching, felt only by Chiyo. He reduced the gravitational resistance on the chakra flow between them. He lightened the pathways. He eased the transfer the way a man might widen a river channel to let water flow faster with less effort. "Your chakra is fighting against the natural pull of entropy. Gravity governs that pull. Let me lessen it." Chiyo gasped. The technique surged. The resistance dropped. Gaara's color began to return, slowly, then faster, warmth spreading through his sand-colored skin, his chest rising with a breath, then another, then a steady rhythm. Chiyo smiled. Her hands were trembling. Her face was lined with exhaustion and peace. "Thank you, boy," she whispered. "You have given me more time to say goodbye." Naruto said nothing. He bowed his head and kept his hands steady, guiding the flow, holding the pathway open. Chiyo poured herself into Gaara, and the seconds she gained from Naruto's assistance, a minute, perhaps two, were spent whispering to the grandson she had never properly known, the boy she had helped damn and was now redeeming with her final breath. Chiyo died with her hands still glowing, her body sagged. The warmth left her in a wave that Naruto felt like a gust of cold wind across his soul. Gaara opened his eyes. His vision was blurred. The cave ceiling swam above him. His body felt wrong, empty in a way it had never been. The absence of Shukaku like a missing limb he could still feel. He turned his head and saw Chiyo's still face, and grief hit him before understanding did. Then he sensed something else, a presence beside him, enormous, warm, heavy in a way that felt like safety rather than burden. "Welcome back, friend," Naruto said. His voice was close and quiet, the voice of a man sitting beside a hospital bed. "The world weighs enough without you leaving it." Gaara stared at the blind boy, the crossed scars, the sealed eyes, the gentle smile. "Naruto," Gaara said. His voice was raw, broken. Chiyo-sama, she chose this, freely, with love." Naruto placed his hand on Gaara's shoulder. "You were worth it, Gaara. Every ounce of what she gave." Gaara's face crumbled. The Kazekage, the boy who had grown up alone with a demon and sand and the hatred of his own village, wept. He wept for Chiyo, for himself, for the weight of being saved by someone who should have been too bitter to bother. Around them, the sand shinobi gathered. Tamari was crying openly. Kankuro, who had arrived with reinforcements, stood rigid, fists clenched, tears running silently into his painted face. The sand ninja knelt, all of them, one by one, kneeling around their fallen elder and their risen Kazekage. Naruto sat among them and let the grief wash through his observation haki. He felt every ache, every sob, every broken heart in the cave. Two Jinchuriki, both hated, both scarred. One had found his way through sand, the other through gravity. And here they were, alive, together, weeping for an old woman who had paid for redemption with her last breath. Some debts are heavier than meteors. Naruto carried Chiyo's body out of the cave himself. He did not use gravity. He carried her in his arms, the old-fashioned way, because some things should be felt in the muscles and the bones. The weight of sacrifice should be borne honestly. They buried her in the sand. The months that followed brought shadows. Naruto felt the Akatsuki moving, distant presences, dark auras circling the edges of his awareness, like sharks in deep water. They were accelerating their plans. Gaara's capture had been the first of a new wave. Other Jinchuriki would follow. The first shadow appeared on a road between the Land of Fire and a small border town where Team Kakashi was investigating an Akatsuki lead. Naruto sensed them from 3 miles out. Two auras. One was controlled, disciplined, carrying a grief so deep it had calcified into something like stone. The other was wild, sharp, hungry. A predator's aura wrapped around a core of cheerful violence. "Kakashi-sensei," Naruto said, stopping on the road. "We have company." "How many?" "2. One of them carries a sword that feels alive. And the other?" Naruto paused, his head tilted, his brow creased. The other's grief could fill an ocean. Kakashi's hand moved to his headband. "Itachi and Kisame." "So it seems." They met on a bridge over a shallow river. The afternoon light was golden, and the water below reflected the sky like a broken mirror. Itachi Uchiha stood at the far end of the bridge. His Akatsuki cloak hung still. No wind could disturb the absolute composure of this man. His face was young but ancient. His eyes were the red of the Sharingan, 3 tomoe spinning slowly. But even through the technique, Naruto could feel the truth of those eyes. They were dying. The light behind them was fading, consumed by overuse, by disease, by the steady, relentless erosion of a body sacrificed for a village that would never know. Beside him, Kisame Hoshigaki grinned. The former Mist Swordsman was enormous, blue-skinned, shark-toothed, carrying Samahata across his back like a surfboard. His aura was strange, violence and loyalty braided together, a man who had found something to follow and would follow it into the grave. "The Gravity Boy," Kisame said, his grin widening. "I've heard the stories, meteors, crushed mountains, fun stuff." "Kisame-san," Naruto said, "your reputation precedes you as well. You carry a remarkable weapon. Samahata likes you already. She's shaking." Kisame shifted his grip. The sword was vibrating against his back, a low, hungry hum. "She can feel your energy. Whatever it is, it's different from chakra. She wants a taste." "I am afraid I must decline. I do not share well." Kisame laughed, a genuine, delighted laugh. "I like this kid, Itachi-san." Itachi had not spoken. He stood at the end of the bridge, his Sharingan fixed on Naruto, his expression unreadable. But Naruto's observation haki read what the face refused to show: the grief, the exhaustion, the terrible, crushing weight of a man who had done the unforgivable for reasons that no one alive fully understood. Itachi's aura was a battlefield. Duty and horror and love and self-hatred, all pressed together so tightly they had fused into something almost unrecognizable. Almost. Naruto recognized it, because he had carried similar weight. "Itachi-san," Naruto said. His voice shifted, dropping the warmth by a degree, adding something quieter, more private. The voice of one weary man addressing another. "You carry a grief heavier than most men survive. I can feel it." The air went still. Kasame's grin faded. He glanced at Itachi. Itachi's expression did not change, but his aura flickered, a single pulse of raw emotion, quickly suppressed, like a crack in a dam sealed before the water could escape. "You feel many things, Uzumaki," Itachi said. His voice was cool, detached. "Grief is a common burden." "Common, yes. Yours is uncommon. It is the grief of a man who destroyed what he loved to protect what he loved more." Naruto's head tilted. "I do not understand your choices, but I understand their weight." Silence. The river babbled beneath the bridge. Somewhere, a bird sang. Itachi's Sharingan spun. The tomoe shifted. The Mangekyo pattern emerged. Kaleidoscopic, beautiful, lethal. Tsukuyomi. The technique struck. The most powerful genjutsu in existence, a world of absolute control, where the caster dictated time, space, and reality itself. 72 hours of subjective torment compressed into a single second. It had broken Anbu captains. It had shattered Kakashi. It had ruined Sasuke's mind and left scars that would never fully heal. It hit Naruto's consciousness and found nothing to grab. Genjutsu requires eyes. Specifically, it requires the visual cortex, the neural pathway between what is seen and what is interpreted. Tsukuyomi projects a false reality through eye contact, overriding the victim's perception with the caster's will. Naruto had no eyes, no visual cortex, no pathway for the illusion to travel. The technique was a key design for a lock that did not exist. Tsukuyomi dissolved the instant it formed. The false world collapsed. Naruto stood on the bridge, unmoved, unchanged, his sealed eyes still closed, his smile still warm. "Interesting technique, Itachi-san," Naruto said. "I could feel it try to enter my mind. It was like a hand knocking on a door that was bricked over years ago." He paused. "I am sorry to disappoint." Itachi's Mangekyo faded. Behind the red eyes, something shifted. Surprise, yes, but also something else. Something that looked, to Naruto's observation haki, like relief. As though Itachi had fired his greatest weapon and was glad it had missed. That emotion told Naruto everything. "You were not truly trying to harm me," Naruto said quietly. "Were you?" Itachi said nothing. But his aura pulsed again. That same crack in the dam. That same flash of something raw and human beneath the ice. Kisame was already moving. Enough talking. He swung Samehada from his back and charged. The enormous shark skin blade howling through the air, its scales rippling with hunger, reaching for Naruto's chakra. The strike was powerful enough to split the bridge in half. Gravity crush. Kasame slammed face first into the bridge. Samehada hit the stone beside him, pinned flat, its living scales writhing uselessly against the gravitational field, pressing it into the wood. Kasame's enormous body was spread-eagled, his blue face smashed against the planks, his arms unable to lift. "Gah!" Kasame grunted. He strained. His muscles bulged. His chakra surged. Samehada screamed, a keening alien sound as it fought against the invisible force. "What? This is insane!" "Please remain still, Kisame-san. The bridge is old and I would prefer it not to collapse." Kisame's face was pressed into the wood so hard that his grin was physically forced. The planks pushed his cheeks up into a grimace that looked like a shark smiling at its own funeral. Despite everything, he laughed. A muffled, crushed, genuinely amused laugh. "You're something else, kid," Kisame said into the bridge. "Really something else." Naruto held the field for 3 seconds, then released it. Kisame gasped, rolled onto his back, and stared at the sky, wheezing. Naruto turned back to Itachi. The Uchiha had not moved, had not attempted to intervene, had simply stood and watched his partner get pancaked into a bridge with the calm of a man observing rainfall. "We will meet again, Itachi-san," Naruto said. "And when we do, I hope you will tell me the truth. Not for my sake, for yours. The weight you carry will kill you before your enemies do." Itachi studied the blind boy for a long time. The Sharingan deactivated. For one moment, one bare, unguarded moment, the face beneath the mask was visible, young, tired, sorrowful, and caring more than any human being should. "You see clearly," Itachi said, "for a blind man." He dissolved into crows. Black feathers scattered on the wind, each one carrying a fragment of his aura until the bridge was empty of his presence. Kasame heaved himself up, slung Samehada over his shoulder, and cracked his neck. "For the record," Kasame said, pointing at Naruto, "that was rude. I apologize." "No, you don't. You are correct. I do not." Kasame grinned, a real one this time, and vanished in a swirl of water. Kakashi and Sakura caught up 30 seconds later. They found Naruto standing alone on the bridge, facing the direction Itachi had vanished, his expression contemplative. "What happened?" Kakashi asked. "I met a man carrying the heaviest grief I've ever felt," Naruto said, "and his partner tried to eat my energy with a very rude sword." "Are you all right?" "I am fine, but Itachi is dying." "Kakashi-sensei, his body and his spirit. Whatever truth he carries will die with him if someone does not reach him in time." He paused. "I fear I was too late." Kakashi said nothing, but his hand rested on Naruto's shoulder for a moment, and the gesture said enough. 3 weeks later, Naruto was meditating on a rooftop in Konoha when a distant aura winked out of existence. He felt it clearly despite the hundreds of miles between them. A rotten presence, that festering wound of malice he had felt in the forest of death years ago, extinguished, snuffed, like a torch dropped into a swamp. Orochimaru's life force vanished from the world between one heartbeat and the next, and the aura that replaced it, the one that had done the killing, was familiar, colder than before, sharper, poisoned with purpose. "Sasuke." Naruto exhaled slowly. The night air was cool on his scarred face. Below, the village hummed with the quiet energy of a sleeping population. Above, the stars burned silently. "He rolled his last die," Naruto said to the dark. The news reached Konoha through intelligence channels within days. Orochimaru was dead. Sasuke had killed him, absorbed what he needed, and emerged with a team of his own. Taka, they called themselves. Hebi before that. A collection of Orochimaru's former subordinates, reforged under Sasuke's command, aimed at a target that only Sasuke knew. Naruto was already moving when the reports came in. He and a team tracked Sasuke's path through the land of sound, following the trail of abandoned hideouts and broken seals that Orochimaru's death had left behind. They were fast. Sasuke was faster. They crossed paths at the edge of a forest near the border of the Land of Iron. It was raining. The sky was gray. Water ran in rivulets down the trunks of ancient trees and pooled on the forest floor. Sasuke stood in a clearing. His white shirt was open at the chest. His sword, Kusanagi, the grass cutter, claimed from Orochimaru's arsenal, hung at his hip. His Sharingan blazed red in the gray light. Behind him, the members of Taka stood at careful distance. Suigetsu with his enormous sword, Karin adjusting her glasses, Jugo standing still as a statue. Sasuke looked at Naruto. 2.5 years had changed him. The boy was gone. What remained was lean hard, polished by rage and loss into something sharp. His aura was a blade, all edge, no warmth, cutting everything it touched. And beneath it all, in the deep places observation Haki could reach, the same grief, the same hunger, the same desperate burning question. "Why am I still weak?" Naruto, Sasuke said. His voice was flat. "Sasuke." Naruto's voice was warm. "As always. You look tired." Don't what? Don't be kind. Don't be gentle. Don't stand there smiling at me like you understand." Sasuke's hand rested on Kusanagi's hilt. "You dropped a meteor on an army. You pinned a Sanin to the ground. You have power that doesn't belong in this world. And you waste it. You waste it on smiles and dice and politeness." "I do not consider kindness a waste. It is when the world is built on cruelty." Sasuke's Sharingan spun. The rain ran down his face like tears he would not shed. "I killed Orochimaru. I took what I needed. Now I'm going to find Itachi, and I'm going to kill him, and nothing, not you, not Konoha, not gravity will stop me." Naruto was quiet for a moment. The rain drummed softly on his kimono, on the leaves, on the earth between them. "The path you are on gets heavier the longer you walk it," Naruto said. His voice carried no judgment, only truth. "When the weight crushes you, I will be there." Sasuke stared at him. The rain fell. The forest breathed. Then Sasuke turned and walked away. Taka followed. They vanished into the gray distance, and Naruto tracked their heartbeats until they faded from range. 4 souls, moving fast, moving towards something that would not end well. Sakura appeared beside him. She was shaking. The rain hid her tears, but Naruto felt them. Hot drops of grief falling faster than the cold ones from the sky. "He's gone," she said, again. "Yes. Are we gonna get him back?" "Yes." She looked at Naruto's face. The scars, the sealed eyes, the steady, unbreakable calm. "How are you so sure?" "Because I am patient, Sakura-san. And patience is the heaviest force in the universe." She did not fully understand, but she believed. The world turned. Events accelerated. Jiraiya infiltrated Omegakure to investigate the leader of the Akatsuki and did not return. Naruto felt his sensei's aura extinguish from across the continent. A great, bright, imperfect light, going dark. He sat on the rooftop of his apartment for 3 hours, holding the dice Jiraiya had carried during their travels. He did not roll them. He held them. When Tsunade told him in person, her eyes red, her hands trembling, her voice the voice of a woman who had lost the last person she was allowed to love, Naruto bowed his head. "He was a good man," Naruto said. "Flawed, loud, occasionally inappropriate with women, but good in the way that matters, in the marrow. He will be missed." "I need you to be ready, Naruto. The man who killed Jiraiya, Pain, the leader of the Akatsuki, has 6 bodies. He shares vision between them. He can push and pull with a technique that sounds..." Tsunade hesitated. "That sounds similar to yours. A gravity user. That's what the intelligence suggests." Naruto rolled the dice for the first time in 3 hours. 6 and 6. He tucked them away. "Then we will have much to discuss, this Pain and I." Pain came to Konoha on a day when the sky was clear and the village was at peace. The first sign was the frogs. They stopped singing, all at once across every garden and pond in Konoha. Then the birds. Then the dogs. Every animal in the village fell silent in the same heartbeat, as though the earth itself had held its breath. Naruto was not in the village. He was at Mount Miobaku, training with the toads, refining something he had been working on for months. He felt the attack begin from another dimension, a distant, massive pulse of hostile intent rolling across his awareness like a seismic wave. He stood. "Hokage-sama is calling," the elder toad said, sensing something wrong. "She will not need to," Naruto said. He was already gripping his cane sword. His dice were in his sleeve. His face was the face of an admiral preparing for war. "I can feel it from here." Every heartbeat in Konoha just spiked with terror. He vanished, reverse summoning. One moment on the mountain, the next in the sky above Konoha, falling toward a village that was already dying. What he sensed as he descended broke his heart. 6 paths of destruction were moving through Konoha's streets. Each one was a body, a corpse reanimated and controlled by a single intelligence, sharing vision, sharing purpose. They were tearing through the village with ruthless efficiency. Buildings collapsed, streets cratered. Shinobi fought and fell. And then the largest one, the Deva Path, the central body, the one that carried the technique Naruto had been warned about, rose above the village. It hovered in the air, arms spread, and spoke a single word. Shinra Tensei. The village exploded outward. A sphere of repulsive force erupted from the Deva Path and expanded at the speed of sound. Buildings disintegrated. The earth peeled back. People, trees, structures, streets. Everything was blasted outward from the center in a cataclysmic wave of destruction that turned the hidden village of Konoha into a crater. The shockwave was still expanding when Naruto landed. He came down in the center of the devastation, the exact point where Konoha's heart had been. His feet touched rubble. Dust rose around him. The air was thick with particulate and screaming. He planted his cane sword in the broken earth and expanded his observation haki to maximum range. The village blazed in his mind. Thousands of heartbeats, panicked, weak, fading, buried. He could feel them all. Every survivor trapped under rubble. Every unconscious shinobi pinned beneath fallen walls. Every child crying in the dark beneath a collapsed building. Lungs full of dust, breath getting shorter. He counted them, all of them. In the space of 2 heartbeats, he cataloged every living soul in the ruins of Konoha. 7,412, then he went to work. Floating field liberation. The rubble moved, all of it. Across the entire crater that had been Konoha, the debris lifted. Concrete slabs, wooden beams, shattered stone, collapsed roofs, fallen monuments. Every piece of wreckage that lay on top of a living body rose into the air, selectively, Precisely, each piece identified by the heartbeat beneath it, each one lifted just enough to free the person below. Thousands of individual gravitational adjustments happening simultaneously across a radius of 2 miles. The survivors gasped, blinked, looked up and saw the sky through the gaps where crushing weight had been. Medical teams rushed in. People were pulled free. Children were lifted from collapsed basements by invisible hands and set gently on stable ground. Across the ruins, shinobi who had been fighting for their lives stopped and stared. The rubble was floating. The entire destroyed village was suspended in the air like a model of devastation held up for inspection. And at the center of it stood a young man in a purple kimono with a cane sword planted in the ground. Tsunade was buried under the Hokage Tower. She had shielded as many people as she could with Katsuyu, her slug summon, and the effort had left her drained, bleeding, barely conscious. The rubble above her lifted away. Light poured in. She looked up and saw Naruto's silhouette against the dusty sky. Naruto breathed. Rest, Hokage-sama. I will handle this. There are 6 of them. I know. He turned toward the 6 paths of pain. They stood in the ruins like monuments to violence. 6 bodies, 6 faces, 6 sets of the Rinnegan, those concentric purple circles that mark the eyes of a god. They watched him with shared vision, 6 perspectives on a single enemy, calculating, analyzing. The Deva path floated forward. The central body, the strongest, the one that could push and pull, that had just flattened an entire village with a single technique. It looked at Naruto with Nagato's eyes. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, the Deva path said. Its voice was flat, resonant, carrying the weight of a man who believed he had transcended humanity. You have arrived. I have. Naruto drew his cane sword. The rubble still floated around them, a constellation of destruction held in suspension, freeing thousands, defying the ruin. You destroyed my home. This village is built on the suffering of others. Its peace is a lie purchased with the blood of smaller nations. The Deva path spread its arms. I am pain. I bring truth. You bring death, Naruto said, and you call it philosophy. The Deva path raised its hand. Shinra Tensei. The repulsive force erupted again. A wave of gravitational repulsion aimed directly at Naruto, the same technique that had flattened Konoha, focused now into a concentrated beam of push that could shatter mountains. Naruto raised his blade. Gravito. His own gravitational shockwave met Pain's in the air between them. The collision was nuclear. 2 gravity fields, one pushing, one pulling, both absolute in their authority, slammed together and the world between them shattered. The air turned white. A cone of destruction blasted outward from the impact point, gouging the earth in 2 directions, blowing dust and debris sideways in a lateral hurricane. The ground beneath both of them cracked and buckled, and for one suspended moment the 2 forces were perfectly balanced. The Rinnegan's repulsion and the Admiral's gravity locked in equilibrium, each pushing against the other with the force of colliding tides. The Deva path's eyes widened. For the first time, the shared intelligence behind the 6 paths encountered something it had never accounted for. Another user of gravitational force. Another being who could push and pull the fabric of the world. The equilibrium broke. Naruto's gravito was stronger, fed by the Zushi no Mi, by Haki, by 2 lifetimes of mastery. The shockwave pushed through Pain's repulsion and hit the Deva path chest first. The body skidded backward 20 meters, feet carving trenches in the broken earth. The other 5 paths attacked simultaneously. The animal path summoned a massive rhino, a dog that split into copies, a bird of prey the size of a house. They charged from 3 directions. The hungry ghost path rushed forward, hands extended, ready to absorb any technique. The human path flanked left. The Ashura path transformed, its body splitting open to reveal missile launchers and mechanical arms, a grotesque fusion of flesh and machinery. The Naraka path hung back, the king of hell hovering behind it, mouth open, ready to repair any fallen path. 6 enemies, 6 directions. A coordinated assault by a shared intelligence that saw through 12 eyes and thought with one mind. Naruto looked up. Ryusei meteor, shower. He thrust his cane sword skyward. The clouds split. The blue sky behind them darkened, then brightened, then caught fire. 6 meteors fell from the upper atmosphere. Not 1, 6. Each one the size of a building, each one trailing a tail of fire, each one precisely targeted by Naruto's gravitational authority. They screamed downward, 6 burning fingers from the hand of a god, aimed at 6 bodies on the ground. The summoned animals looked up and scattered. The rhino turned and ran. The dog copies howled and tried to flee. The bird banked hard and dove too late. The first meteor hit the animal path. The impact erased the summons and the body in a column of fire and displaced Earth 30 meters wide. The crater smoked. The second hit the Asura path. The mechanical body was obliterated, missiles, arms, launchers and all, compressed into the Earth by an object falling at terminal velocity. The third hit the human path. Gone. The fourth hit the hungry ghost path. It tried to absorb the meteor. It could not absorb a rock the size of a house moving at 1,000 miles an hour. Gone. The fifth hit the Naraka path. The king of hell vanished with its controller. The repair mechanism was destroyed. Each impact was contained. Naruto's floating field surrounded every impact zone, catching the shockwaves, channeling the debris upward and away from the survivors in the ruins. The devastation was enormous but controlled. 6 pillars of fire and dust rising into the sky, 6 craters steaming in the wreckage of Konoha, and between them, every surviving civilian and shinobi untouched. The 6th meteor hung in the air, suspended, burning, aimed at the Deva path and held in place by Naruto's outstretched hand. A sword of Damocles made of space rock and fire, hovering 50 meters above the last remaining body of pain. The Deva path stood alone. The ruins of Konoha were silent. Every surviving shinobi, Kakashi, half buried and barely conscious, Tsunade, drained and bleeding, the Jonin, the Chunin, the Anbu, the Jinin, the civilians who had crawled from the rubble, all of them were staring at the sky, at the burning meteor suspended above the village, at the pillars of smoke rising from 5 impact zones, at the young man in the purple kimono standing in the center of it all, Kane's sword pointed at the heavens, holding the weight of a falling star in his hand. Nobody breathed. Konan watched from above. She floated on paper wings at the edge of the destruction, her amber eyes wide, her normally composed face cracked open with something raw and enormous. She had followed Nagato for years. She had believed in his pain. She had watched him destroy villages and break armies and declare himself a god. She had never seen him outmatched. The Deva path looked at the meteor above it. The heat pressed down on its face, the fire reflected in the Rinnegan eyes, the concentric circles of a god's gaze, looking up at something even a god could not stop. "You carry the weight of this world alone," the Deva path said. Its voice was quieter now. The resonance was fading. Beneath the flat affect of a controlled corpse, something human was bleeding through. Nagato's own voice, thin and desperate, speaking through a dead mouth. "That is loneliness." Naruto lowered his sword halfway. The meteor remained suspended. His scarred face was turned toward the Deva path, and his expression held something the surrounding shinobi had rarely seen on him. "Sorrow. I carry it so others do not have to," Naruto said. "That is not loneliness, that is justice." He brought the meteor down. Ryusei, single star. The burning rock dropped. The Deva path raised its hands. Shinra Tensei, one last repulsion, one final push against the falling sky. The gravitational repulsion hit the meteor and slowed it. For one heartbeat, the Rinnegan's power held, one heartbeat. Then the meteor overwhelmed it. The repulsion cracked. The rock fell through. The Deva path was swallowed by fire and stone, driven into the earth, buried, obliterated. The impact zone smoked. The ground trembled. All 6 paths of pain were gone. Naruto sheathed his cane sword. The floating rubble across Konoha settled gently. Every piece lowered back to the ground, placed carefully, as though the village were being tucked in for the night. The smoke drifted. The fire dimmed. The sky returned to blue. Silence held the village for a long time. Then a child, a small girl, pulled from the wreckage of a collapsed school by Naruto's floating field, pointed at him and said, in a voice clear as a bell, he caught the sky. And Konoha erupted. The sound was ragged and broken, the cheer of a people who had been flattened, who had lost homes and friends who were bleeding and afraid, but it was real. They cheered. They wept. They screamed his name. They screamed it the way you scream when you are drowning and someone pulls you out of the water. "Naruto! Naruto! Naruto!" He stood in the crater that had been his home and felt every voice, every heartbeat, every soul crying his name. The boy they had called a demon, the child they had spat on, the orphan they had cursed. He bowed his head, he smiled. and the smile was warm and deep and a little bit sad, because Fujitora had never been cheered like this, and Naruto had never expected to be, and the weight of being loved after a lifetime of being hated was its own kind of gravity. He found Nagato in a grove of paper trees on the outskirts of the village. The real Nagato, the true body, emaciated and broken, impaled on a mechanical walker, his red hair hanging lank over hollow cheeks. The Rinnegan stared out from a face that had once belonged to a child who wanted peace and had built a war instead. Konan stood beside him. Her wings were folded. Her face was wet. She did not attack when Naruto approached. She did not need observation haki to read his intent. His entire posture spoke of something other than violence. Naruto knelt beside Nagato's walker. He folded his hands on his cane sword and turned his blind face toward the dying man. "You and I are alike in some ways," Naruto said. "We are nothing alike." Nagato's voice was a ruin, ravaged by pain, by chakra drain, by the slow collapse of a body that had been pushed far past its limits. "I am pain. I am a god. You are a boy from a Megakure who lost his parents and his best friend and decided the world owed him an answer." Naruto's voice was quiet, kind. The kindness hurt more than any attack. "I understand. I lost everything too. My parents, my sight, my right to be treated as human. We both carry things too heavy for one person. The difference is, I chose to carry them so others would not have to. You chose to make others carry yours." Nagato flinched. The Rinnegan wavered. His chakra flickered like a candle in the wind. "What do you know about suffering?" Nagato whispered. "I know it is real. I know it is heavy. I know it breaks people." Naruto paused. "And I know it is a reason to be kind, not cruel. Pain should make you gentle, Nagato. It should make you desperate to ensure that no one else feels what you felt. Instead, you let it make you a mirror. You reflected your suffering onto the world and called it justice." Nagato stared at the blind boy. The Rinnegan, those godlike eyes, the eyes of the sage of Six Paths himself, stared at a young man who had no eyes at all and saw more clearly than anyone Nagato had ever met. A tear ran down Nagato's gaunt cheek, then another. Then they came freely, streaming from the Rinnegan, salt water from the eyes of a god. "Jiraiya-sensei?" Nagato whispered. "He believed in me once, before I became this. He believed in you until the end. He died carrying that belief." Nagato closed his eyes. His breathing was shallow. His life force was nearly gone. Naruto could feel it, a candle burned down to the wick. "There is a technique," Nagato said. "Rinna Rebirth, the outer path. It can restore what I have taken, everyone I killed today." He opened his eyes. "It will cost me my life. I know. You will not stop me? Some debts must be paid in person." Nagato performed the technique. His remaining chakra flowed outward, a green wave of life force spreading through the ruins of Konoha, touching every soul that pain had extinguished. Hearts restarted, lungs inflated, eyes opened. Across the village, the dead returned to life with gasps and coughs and the bewildered look of people who had been somewhere dark and were suddenly, impossibly back. Kakashi opened his eyes and stared at the sky. He had been dead. He was certain of it. He had been somewhere warm and dark, speaking with his father. And then, light, air, the taste of dust and the sound of weeping. Nagato's body sagged. The Rinnegan dimmed. His life force guttered. "Was it enough?" Nagato whispered. "It was enough," Naruto said. Nagato died. His body folded it into the mechanical walker, and the soul that had been Nagato, the boy from the rain, the student of prophecy, the man who had called himself a god, departed. Naruto felt it go. A spark, extinguished. The universe, one soul lighter. He sat beside the body in silence. Konan stood over them both, weeping. Not the quiet tears of a kunoichi, but the open, devastating sobs of a woman who had just lost the last person in the world she loved. Her paper wings dissolved. The sheets fell around her like snow. Naruto waited. He did not speak. He did not move. He simply sat, his hand resting near Nagato's still fingers, and held the space that grief needed. When Konan's sobs subsided into raw, ragged breathing, Naruto stood. He lifted Nagato's body with gravity, gently, reverently, the corpse rising from the walker and floating at chest height, serene in death. He guided the body toward Konan and lowered it into her waiting arms. "He was wrong," Naruto said, "but he loved his friends, and in the end, he chose redemption. That is worth remembering." Konan held Nagato's body against her chest. She looked at Naruto through red-rimmed eyes. "You could have killed all 6 paths in the first minute. Perhaps. Why didn't you? Because pain needed to be answered, not silenced, and Nagato needed to hear the answer before it was too late. Konan stared at him for a long time. Then she bowed, deeply, formally, the bow of a woman acknowledging something she could not fully articulate. I will carry his body home, she said, to Amegakure, to the rain. Then the rain will mourn a good heart that lost its way. Naruto bowed in return. Travel safely, Konan-san. She left. Her paper wings reformed, and she rose into the sky. Nagato's body cradled against her, and she flew west toward the rain. Naruto tracked her heartbeat until it faded from his range. One soul, carrying another, heading home. He turned back toward Konoha. The village was alive. Battered, broken, cratered, but alive. And getting more alive by the minute as Nagato's Rini rebirth continued its work, pulling the dead back from wherever the dead go, and returning them to a world that was not finished with them yet. Naruto walked into the ruins, and the people who saw him coming parted like water around a stone, and then closed behind him. Following, drawn by the gravity of a man who had held the sky, the 5 Kage Summit was called in the Land of Iron 3 weeks later. The leaders of the 5 great shinobi villages gathered under one roof for the first time in a generation. The political temperature in the room was a degree below open warfare. Every Kaji brought guards. Every guard brought suspicion. And the reason for the summit was carved into the front page of every intelligence report on the continent. The Akatsuki threat, the Jinchuriki crisis, and the growing likelihood of a war that would consume the world. Naruto attended as Konoha's military attachment. Tsunade, weakened but recovering, had insisted. If this goes sideways, you're the only thing that keeps it from becoming a massacre, she told him. Stand behind me and look intimidating. I will do my best, Hokage-sama, though I have been told I look more soothing than intimidating. Trust me, brat, you're intimidating. The summit convened. Gaara spoke with the measured authority of a young Kage who had seen death and come back from it. The Tsuchikage grumbled. The Raikage raged. His brother B, the Eight-Tails Jinchuriki, had been targeted. The Mizukage smiled dangerously. Danzo, attending as a Konoha elder, sat in the shadows and radiated the kind of political menace that made Naruto's observation haki itch. Then the ceiling exploded. Sasuke Uchiha descended through the breach, 8 Kusanagi drawn, Sharingan blazing, flanked by the remains of Taka. He had come for Danzo. He had come for answers about the Uchiha massacre. He had come to burn everything that had ever hurt him, and the 5 Kage Summit was simply in his way. The Raikage attacked first, a lightning-charged fist that could shatter mountains. Sasuke dodged. Gaara intervened with sand. The Mizukage attacked. The room became a battlefield in seconds. Kage-level techniques crashing against walls, guards drawing weapons, the summit dissolving into chaos. Sasuke retreated to the roof. The Kage followed. And there, against the winter sky of the Land of Iron, Sasuke activated the technique he had been saving, Susanoo. The avatar of the Mangekyo Sharingan erupted around him, enormous, skeletal at first, then fleshing out into a massive humanoid figure of purple chakra. It towered over the building. Its ribcage enclosed Sasuke like a throne. Its arms carried a bow and arrow of condensed chakra. It radiated killing intent so thick the air itself seemed to curdle. The Raikage skidded to a halt. The Mizukage's smile disappeared. Even Gaara's sand retreated half a step. Naruto appeared on the roof. He had not run up the stairs. He had not climbed. He was simply there, standing on the edge, cane sword resting against his shoulder, head tilted toward the enormous chakra construct looming against the sky. He felt its weight, its density, the furious, anguished energy that Sasuke poured into it, the entirety of his hatred, his grief, his rage given physical form. Large, Naruto said. Loud. He paused, hollow inside. Sasuke's head snapped toward him. Inside the Susanoo, his Mangekyo blazed. Stay out of this, Naruto. This is between me and... Gravity crush. Naruto raised his hand. The air above the Susanoo thickened. The effect was immediate. The enormous chakra avatar, 30 meters tall, strong enough to tank a Kage's attack, groaned. Its structure shuddered. The skeletal frame bent inward at the shoulders. The arms lowered, dragged down by a force that no amount of chakra could resist. Sasuke strained. His Mangekyo burned. Chakra poured from his body into the Susanoo, reinforcing it, fighting the pressure. Sweat ran down his face. Blood dripped from his eyes. the toll of the Mangekyo. Compounded by the effort of maintaining a construct being compressed by the weight of the sky, Naruto increased the force. The Susanu's ribs cracked. The sound was enormous, a thunderclap of breaking chakra echoing across the summit building. The left arm collapsed, the bow dissolved, the arrow vanished. The avatar's head tilted downward, pushed by invisible weight, and the chest cavity began to fold inward. Sasuke screamed. The Mangekyo spun wildly. He poured everything into the technique. Every drop of chakra, every ounce of hatred, every fragment of his broken, furious heart. The Susanoo shattered. It collapsed inward like a building imploding, a cascade of dissolving chakra, each piece falling toward the ground under amplified gravity, fading before it hit. The enormous avatar was reduced to nothing in 2 seconds. Sasuke stood on the roof, naked of protection, his eyes bleeding, his body shaking, his Mangekyo deactivating against his will. Naruto lowered his hand. The 5 Kage stared. The Raikage, a man who punched through mountains and respected nothing he could not hit, was motionless. His fists were at his sides. His jaw was set. The look in his eyes was the look of a warrior encountering a force he could not overcome and accepting it with the cold clarity of experience. Meitarumi, the Mizukage, pressed one hand to her mouth. Her eyes were wide above her fingers. She had been prepared for many things at this summit. A teenager compressing a Susanoo with his bare hand was not among them. Onoki, the Tsuchikage, the old man who could make things weightless, who had his own mastery of gravity through the dust release, was gripping the railing of the roof with both hands. His knuckles were white. His eyes were sharp and calculating and profoundly unsettled. He knew gravity. He understood weight. And what this boy had just done dwarfed his own abilities the way the ocean dwarfs a puddle. Gaara watched with calm recognition. He had seen this before. He had been saved by it. His sand settled around him, and he allowed himself the smallest of smiles. Naruto turned to Sasuke. The Uchiha was on his knees, gasping, his eyes streaming blood and tears. "You are running out of road, old friend," Naruto said. His voice carried no triumph, only the bone-deep wariness of a man watching someone he cared about destroy themselves in slow motion. Sasuke looked up at him. The hatred was still there, but underneath it, for one raw, unguarded moment, Naruto felt something else. Something small and buried and nearly dead, hope. Then Sasuke was gone. Obito, the masked man, appeared in a swirl of dimensional distortion and took Sasuke away before anyone could react. The roof was empty. The crisis was over. The summit somehow continued. The Kage formed an alliance that day, not because of politics, not because of speeches, because every leader in that room had just watched a blind teenager in a purple kimono crush an Uchiha's ultimate technique with a wave of his hand, and the calculation was simple. The Akatsuki could not be defeated without the boy who held the weight of the sky. The Fourth Shinobi World War began on a day without weather. The sky was flat and gray and featureless, as though the world itself had decided to dress in funeral colors. The Allied Shinobi forces, 80,000 strong, drawn from every major and minor village, the largest military coalition in the history of the Shinobi world, assembled on the borders of the Land of Lightning. Naruto stood at the front. He did not carry a banner. He did not wear armor. The purple kimono, the cane sword, the crossed scars. That was enough. Gaara commanded the alliance. Naruto heard the announcement through the ranks and smiled. "Good," he said to Kakashi, who stood beside him. "He always had steady hands." "You could have been commander," Kakashi said. "Commanders give orders. I prefer to give weight." The White Zetsu army attacked first, 100,000 clones grown in the earth, erupting from the ground like weeds. They were crude, mass-produced, expendable, designed to overwhelm through sheer numbers. They swarmed the forward positions of the Allied forces, and the first skirmishes erupted across a front line that stretched for miles. Naruto walked forward, past the front line, past the skirmish, into the open field where the main body of the Zetsu army was assembling, a wave of white stretching to the horizon, an ocean of artificial soldiers filling every gap between the trees. He planted his cane sword in the earth. Gravito, wide field. The technique expanded outward in a circle. The gravity within the field increased by a factor of 30. Every white Zetsu within a quarter mile of Naruto hit the ground, simultaneously, not one at a time, all of them at once, in the same instant. slammed into the earth by a force they could not resist, could not dodge, and could not understand. Thousands of bodies, pressed flat, pinned to the ground like insects in a collection. The sound was extraordinary. A massive rolling crunch of compressing flesh and snapping plant matter, a tidal wave of applied physics. The Allied forces watched from the ridgeline. 80,000 shinobi, veterans and raw recruits, Kage and Jinin, all of them staring at a single figure standing in a field of flattened enemy soldiers, cane sword in the dirt, head tilted toward the sky. Some of them cheered, wild, ragged, disbelieving cheers. Some of them cried. The quiet, involuntary tears of people who had been afraid and were suddenly, violently overwhelmed with the understanding that the most powerful being on the battlefield was on their side. Naruto expanded the field. Wider. Farther. The Zetsu army crumbled. Thousands more hit the ground. Tens of thousands. The wave of white that had stretched to the horizon was being pressed flat like wheat under a roller. And the man doing it was standing with his hands at his sides and his face turned toward the clouds. It was, to the soldiers who witnessed it, the single most reassuring thing they had ever seen. Madara Uchiha arrived on the second day of the war. He was reanimated by the Edo Tensei, brought back from death, restored to his prime, and unleashed on the battlefield like a force of nature given a grudge. He descended from the sky, arms crossed, his ancient armor gleaming, his long black hair streaming behind him, his Rinnegan and Sharingan blazing from a face that carried the supreme confidence of a man who had founded a village, fought a god, and died on his own terms. He looked at the battlefield below him, thousands of allied shinobi, arranged in formations, bristling with weapons and techniques and the collective determination of 5 nations. He was unimpressed. "Is this the best this era can offer?" Madara said, and his voice carried across the field like thunder. He raised his hands. Tengai Shinsei. The technique rippled outward and upward, reaching into the sky, into space itself, and seized hold of 2 meteors in the asteroid belt. He pulled them down. 2 rocks, each the size of a small mountain, each wreathed in fire, each casting a shadow so vast it covered the entire battlefield in darkness. The Allied forces looked up. Every soldier, every shinobi, every commander and medic and messenger. They looked up and saw 2 burning mountains falling from the sky, and every face on the field wore the same expression, the ancient, primal, unmodified terror of a living thing watching its own extinction approach. Some of them screamed, some of them froze, some of them closed their eyes and thought of the people they loved. Onoki, the Tsuchikage, rose into the air. His dust release flickered. He was old and powerful, and he was willing to give everything to stop one of those rocks. But even he knew, as he climbed toward the descending horror, that too was beyond him. Then Naruto appeared beside him. He came from below. Gravity launched, rising like a rocket, his kimono flaring behind him. He passed Onoki in the air, his cane sword in his hand, his blind face turned toward the 2 burning meteors that were about to annihilate an army. He exhaled slowly. A long, measured breath. The breath of a man settling himself before something enormous. Floating field, full embrace. His gravity reached upward and caught both meteors. They stopped. The meteors, each one 100 meters across, each one burning with the heat of atmospheric entry, each one carrying enough kinetic energy to flatten a city, froze in the sky, dead still, suspended, held by the outstretched hand of a young man floating in the air below them, his cane sword pointed upward, his gravity wrapped around both rocks like hands cradling stones. The battlefield went silent. 80,000 people held their breath at the same time. Madara stared. He stood on the ground, Rinnegan blazing, and he stared upward at the blind boy who had just caught his signature technique in midair. The meteors he had pulled from space, the ultimate expression of the Rinnegan's gravitational authority, were hanging above the battlefield like ornaments on an invisible string. "Impossible," Madara said, but his voice did not carry disbelief. It carried fascination. Naruto reversed the gravity. Both meteors accelerated, not downward, upward, and then horizontally. Their vectors warped, their trajectories bent by gravitational authority that exceeded even the Rinnegan's pull. They swung in a massive arc, up, over, and back, gaining speed, their fiery tails painting burning circles across the sky. Then they came screaming back toward Madara. Ryusei returned. Two mountains of burning rock, redirected at twice their original velocity, aimed at the man who had summoned them. Powered by the gravitational will of a reincarnated admiral, Madara's Rinnegan flared. He tried to push them back. Shinra Tensei, a wall of repulsive force. The meteors hit the wall and punched through it. They hit Madara with the force of an extinction event. The impact was beyond description. The ground where Madara stood ceased to exist. A crater, so deep it exposed bedrock, so wide it swallowed an entire section of the battlefield, opened beneath the impact zone. Dust and debris erupted in a mushroom cloud that climbed into the stratosphere. The shockwave knocked soldiers off their feet a mile away. Naruto held the debris field. Every fragment, every chunk, every splinter of superheated rock was caught by a floating field and guided away from the Allied forces. The devastation was catastrophic but contained. A wound in the earth, aimed at one man, delivered with the precision of a scalpel the size of a continent. The dust settled. The crater smoked, and Madara Uchiha stood in its center. Because he was Edo Tensei, because the reanimation jutsu rebuilt what was destroyed, reformed what was obliterated, and the most powerful Uchiha in history was already reassembling, his body knitting back together from ash and debris, his armor reforming, his hair regathering. But the expression on his face, that was the thing. He was smiling, a wide, genuine, hungry smile. The smile of a warrior who had spent decades in death, bored out of his mind, and had finally encountered something interesting. You, Madara said, looking up at Naruto floating above the crater. You returned my own meteor, at twice the speed. He laughed, a deep, resonant, genuinely delighted laugh. Interesting, very interesting. He launched upward. The fight that followed was felt across the continent. Madara activated the Rinnegan's full suite. Limbo, shadow clones from an invisible dimension, attacking from angles that no normal sensor could perceive. They struck from the blind spots that did not exist on a physical plane, each one carrying Madara's full power, each one invisible to any eye. Naruto's observation haki read them the way a lantern reads a dark room. Every Limbo clone blazed in his awareness, not visible, but felt. Their intent, their weight, their position. He cut them down before they reached him, each one meeting a gravity blade technique that scattered them back to their dimension. Gravity blade, sea cleaver. Gravity blade, mountain press. Gravity blade, storm current. Each swing of the cane sword released a shaped gravitational wave, crescents, columns, spirals of compressed force that sheared through the Limbo clones and continued onward, carving trenches in the earth, splitting the air with sonic booms. Madara was delighted. He escalated. Wood style erupted from the earth, the first Hokage's technique, stolen and mastered. Enormous trees the size of skyscrapers growing from nothing, their roots tearing the ground apart, their canopy blocking the sky. The deity gates, the deep forest emergence, techniques that had shaped nations. Gravity crush earthward. The trees were driven back into the ground, every trunk, every branch, every root, pushed down by a gravitational field so intense that the wood compressed and the growth reversed, the forest disappearing into the earth as fast as it had emerged. The ground bubbled and settled, and the trees were gone. Madara's smile widened. He activated perfect Susanoo. The avatar erupted around him, the full, armored, complete manifestation. A deity of purple chakra, taller than the Hokage monument, carrying a sword that could bisect a mountain range. It towered over the battlefield, casting a shadow that covered a square mile. Naruto looked up at it. Gravity crush, 1,000 times. The ground beneath the Susanoo collapsed. It did not crack or fracture. It gave way entirely, the earth opening into a trench 20 meters deep and growing deeper every second as gravitational force multiplied on every inch of the colossal avatar. The Susanoo's legs sank, its knees buckled. The armor groaned. An unholy sound, the sound of near-infinite chakra being overpowered by the fundamental force of the universe. Madara strained inside the avatar. His Rinnegan blazed. His chakra surged. The Susanoo fought, pushing against the ground, struggling to rise, the muscles of a god against the will of gravity. The trench deepened. 30 meters, 40. The Susanoo was being driven into the earth like a nail under a hammer, its armor cracking, its edges dissolving, its enormous form folding inward. This power, Madara said, and for the first time his voice carried something other than amusement, something almost like respect. This power is not of this world. You are correct, Naruto said. He floated above the sinking Susanoo, cane sword in hand, blind face serene. It came from somewhere else, and it answers to me. He called the meteor. Ryusei, single star. One rock, stadium-sized, pulled from the edge of the atmosphere, trailing a tail of fire that split the sky from horizon to horizon. It fell with the inevitability of a verdict. It hit the Susanoo dead center. The shockwave was felt across the entire land of lightning. Mountains trembled, rivers reversed. The clouds were blown away in every direction, leaving a circle of clear sky above the impact zone. The sound reached the Allied forces' rear positions, a deep, rolling boom that made the earth vibrate beneath their feet. When the smoke cleared, Madara was regenerating again. His body rebuilt itself in the center of a crater so deep it had exposed geological strata. He stood on bedrock, half-formed, his smile still in place. "Fascinating," he said, "truly fascinating." But his eyes, those ancient, legendary eyes, were locked on Naruto. He had fought Hashirama. He had faced the five Kage. He had waged wars and toppled nations and declared himself the strongest. Naruto was the first person in this war he had actually looked at. The war raged on. Events spiraled toward their conclusion. Obito revealed himself. The Ten Tails was revived, a monstrous, world-ending creature of primordial chakra, its power enough to reshape the planet. Madara absorbed it. Obito absorbed it. The infinite Tsukuyomi was cast. The moon turned red and its light washed over the world, trapping every living soul in an eternal dream. Every soul except those shielded by Sasuke's Susanoo, which, at the critical moment, he had raised to protect Team 7, Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, and Naruto. They stood in the red light of the false moon, awake and alive, the only 4 people in the world still free. And then the sky split open, and Kaguya Otsutsuki descended. She was ancient beyond comprehension. Her aura, Naruto reached for it with his observation haki and recoiled. There was no human emotion there, no intent he could read, no heartbeat he could track. She was something older than the concepts his senses were built to measure. An alien intelligence, a goddess, a being from a time before time had a name. "This one has no aura of a living thing," Naruto said quietly. His voice, for the first time in memory, carried a note of genuine unease. "She is something older, something from before." Kaguya looked at them with the Byakugan, the original Byakugan, the source from which all others descended. Her third eye, the Rinne Sharingan, pulsed on her forehead. Her white hair floated around her like a halo of ghostly silk. She did not speak. She shifted dimensions. The world changed. The forest disappeared. In its place, a landscape of volcanic rock and flowing lava, heat so intense it scorched the air, rivers of molten stone cutting through a hellscape that stretched to every horizon. Naruto's floating field activated instantly. The platform of gravitational force spread beneath Team 7's feet, lifting them above the lava, holding them stable in the superheated air. Kaguya shifted again. Ice. A world of infinite frozen plains, the air so cold that breathing burned. Naruto adjusted the field, heating the gravitational boundary through friction, maintaining a pocket of survivable temperature around his team. Again, a desert of bone-white sand under a sky with no sun. Again, a dimension of acid rain and corrosive atmosphere. Each time, Naruto's floating field adapted, protecting, shielding, keeping 3 humans alive in environments designed to kill gods. "He's keeping us alive," Sakura breathed, clinging to the floating platform as the dimensions shifted again. "In every world she throws at us, he's keeping us alive." "That's what he does," Kakashi said. His Sharingan was active, both of them now, both Mangekyo, a temporary gift from Obito's departing spirit. His voice was calm, but his hands were trembling. "He carries the weight." Kaguya fired the all-killing ash bones. The technique materialized in her hands, bone-white projectiles, dense with destructive energy, capable of disintegrating anything they touched at the molecular level. She launched them at Naruto, 6 bones, each one a death sentence, screaming through the air. Naruto raised his hand. Floating field suspension. The bones stopped. 6 instruments of absolute destruction, frozen in the air between Naruto and Kaguya, held by gravitational force, vibrating with lethal energy but going nowhere. "Bones?" Naruto said. He tilted his head. "I have caught heavier things." He reversed the gravity on the bones and sent them screaming back. Kaguya dodged, shifting through dimensions, phasing out of reality for a split second. and the bones passed through the space she had occupied and dissolved into the ground, leaving 6 smoking pits. Then Naruto did something no one had done to the mother of chakra in 10,000 years. He reversed the gravity on Kaguya herself. Gravito, heaven's rejection. The goddess of the shinobi world, the progenitor, the source, the being who had eaten the fruit of the god tree and birthed chakra itself, was lifted off the ground. Her feet left the surface. Her hair floated upward. Her body rose, uncontrolled, unstoppable, pulled skyward by a force that had no chakra for her to absorb and no technique for her Bakugan to see through. She hung in the air. For the first time in millennia, Kaguya Otsutsuki was not in control of where her body was. Her expression changed. The alien blankness cracked. Something moved behind those ancient eyes. Not fear, exactly, but surprise. The surprise of a being encountering something genuinely new after 10,000 years of knowing everything. She looked at Naruto, the blind boy with the cane sword, standing on a platform of compressed air, holding a goddess in the sky with the authority of a man who had been doing this his entire life. Both of them. Sasuke saw the opening. His Rinnegan flared. Sakura charged her fist with everything she had. Kakashi prepared the sealing technique that Obito's gift had made possible. They moved together. 4 people, 1 moment, the culmination of everything. Naruto locked Kaguya in place, his floating field pressed from every direction. Above, below, left, right, forward, back. 6 vectors of gravitational force converging on a single point, holding the most powerful being in the world in a cage of compressed space. She could not shift dimensions. The gravity held her in this reality, anchored her, denied her the escape that was her greatest weapon. Now, Naruto said, they sealed her. The technique formed, ancient symbols, burning light, the power of the Sage of 6 Paths channeled through his descendants. Kaguya looked at Naruto as the seal closed around her. She looked at him with those alien eyes, and for 1 fraction of a second, her expression held something that might have been recognition. As though she saw in this blind boy from a small village something she had encountered only once before, in another world, in another time. Rest now, Naruto said as the seal swallowed her. The world will carry its own weight from here. The seal closed. Kaguya vanished. The dimensions collapsed. Reality reassembled. The sky returned to its natural color. Blue, clear, achingly blue after the red of the false moon. The infinite Tsukuyomi dissolved. Across the world, people woke from their dreams. They blinked in the sunlight and remembered nothing of the nightmare. The war was over, almost. Sasuke stood in the wreckage of the final battlefield, and his Rinnegan was still active, and his face was the face of a man who had made a decision that would break whatever was left of his heart. It's not over, Sasuke said. Naruto felt it. The shift in Sasuke's aura, the crystallization of intent, the cold, bright, terrible clarity of a man who has decided to sacrifice everything for a vision only he can see. I will create a new world, Sasuke said. His voice was flat, calm, the calm of someone who has stopped fighting with themselves. I will take the tailed beasts. I will eliminate the Kage system. I will impose order by force because that is the only language this world understands. He looked at Naruto, the Rinnegan and the Mangekyo spinning in tandem. Move aside. Naruto did not move aside. They stood facing each other in a field of ash and broken earth. The war's debris surrounded them, craters, fallen weapons, scorched ground. In the distance, Sakura stood with her hands over her mouth, tears streaming. Kakashi was barely upright, his borrowed Mangekyo fading, his body spent. No audience, no armies. Just 2 young men who had been carrying the weight of the world on different shoulders, and the moment when those weights finally collided. I have held the sky up, Naruto said. His voice was quiet, steady. The voice of a man who has lifted meteors and caught goddesses and carried friends home from valleys of ruin. I have caught meteors. I have crushed armies. I have carried the unconscious body of my friend across a battlefield and brought him home. He drew his cane sword. The blade caught the gray light. And I am still standing here telling you, your world would not be worth living in. Sasuke attacked. Chidori blazed in his hand. Black lightning, fed by the curse mark's remnants and the Rinnegan's power, screaming with the fury of a man who had spent his entire life running toward a destination that kept moving. He launched himself at Naruto with everything he had left. Naruto sheathed his sword. He raised both hands. Gravito, heaven and earth. Sasuke hit the ground. His entire body was seized. Every limb, every joint, every muscle, every inch of skin pressed downward and inward by gravity, so intense that the Chidori in his hand dispersed and his chakra network trembled on the edge of collapse. His arms were pinned to his sides. His legs were locked together. His face was pressed against the earth. He could not lift a finger. He could not blink. He could breathe, barely, because Naruto allowed it. Because Naruto controlled the force with the precision of a surgeon and the mercy of a saint. "You want to carry the world," Naruto said. He crouched beside Sasuke's prone form. His blind face was close. His voice was gentle. "Let me show you what that actually feels like." He increased the pressure. Sasuke screamed. The sound was wrenched from the deepest part of him. A sound beyond pride, beyond composure, beyond the carefully constructed walls of anger and ambition that he had built around his heart. The gravity pressed him into the earth, and the weight was not just physical. It was the weight of responsibility, of leadership, of carrying everyone, every life, every hope, every heartbeat, on your shoulders without rest, without relief, without complaint. This was what Naruto carried. Every day, every moment. The weight of the sky, pressed into a 15-year-old's body, born with a smile. Naruto held it for 10 seconds, each one an eternity. Then he released it. All of it. The gravity returned to normal. The air lightened. The earth stopped pressing. Sasuke gasped. He lay face down in the dirt, body racked with tremors, his chakra depleted, his technique spent. He could not have lifted a kunai, let alone a revolution. Naruto crouched beside him. He did not gloat. He did not lecture. He was simply present, sitting on the ground beside a broken boy in a field of ash, the way you sit beside someone in a hospital room. "It is heavy, isn't it?" Naruto said softly. "The dam broke," Sasuke Uchiha cried. He cried the way he had not cried since the night his family died. Open, ugly, the sobs of a child who had been carrying an impossible weight and had finally, after years of rage and denial and darkness, admitted that it was too much. The tears cut through the dirt on his face. His body shook. His hands clenched fistfuls of earth, and the sound that came from his chest was the sound of something shattering that had needed to shatter for a very long time. I can't. Sasuke choked. "I can't do it. I can't carry it. I've been trying for years. Itachi's death, the clan, the hatred. I've been trying to carry it all and I can't." "Then stop carrying it alone." Naruto placed his hand on Sasuke's back. The warmth of his palm was the warmth of a man who understood, who had walked the same dark road and chosen a different turning. "You were never meant to carry it alone, Sasuke. Nobody is. That is the lie the darkness tells you, that you must bear everything yourself, that asking for help is weakness, that the only answer to pain is more pain." He squeezed Sasuke's shoulder. "Put it down. I will help you carry the rest." Sasuke wept into the earth. Naruto sat beside him and said nothing more, because sometimes the most important thing a person can do is simply stay. Sakura reached them. She knelt on Sasuke's other side, healing chakra already flowing from her hands, mending the physical damage while her tears fell on his back and healed something deeper. Kakashi stood behind them. The last Hatake, the eternal teacher, watching his students with an expression that he would deny was tearful, and that everyone present knew was exactly that. The field was quiet. The war was over. The fighting was done. Naruto rolled his dice. They clattered on the scorched ground. 6, he smiled. The world healed. Slowly, unevenly, the way all real healing happens. The allied shinobi forces disbanded. Soldiers went home to families who had been dreaming. Villages began the work of reconstruction. Not just of buildings, but of trust. Naruto stood before the allied forces on the final day. 80,000 shinobi gathered for the last time, waiting for something. A speech, a declaration, a moment to mark the end. Naruto rolled his dice. They landed on 6. He smiled. "Good," he said. That was all. The crowd did not know why it was meaningful, but it was. The single word carried the weight of everything. The war, the loss, the victory, the future. It was the sound of a man who had asked the universe for its verdict and received it. The crowd cheered. 80,000 voices, and for a blind man standing at the center of it, feeling every heartbeat, every aura, every soul alive and grateful, it sounded like the ocean. Konoha rebuilt again. The village was getting good at it. Reconstruction as an art form, born of repeated catastrophe and stubborn refusal to stay broken. The Hokage monument was repaired. The streets were repaved. New buildings rose where old ones had fallen. The hospital expanded. The academy reopened. Life returned to its stubborn, resilient rhythm. Naruto walked those streets as he always had. The cane tapped the stone. The purple kimono caught the breeze. The warm smile was offered to everyone he passed. Shopkeepers, children, ambu, stray cats. The difference was in how they responded. Children followed him. Not afraid, delighted. They trailed behind him in giggling clusters, trying to imitate his walk, trying to tap sticks on the ground in the same rhythm as his cane. They played games in the park where they pretended to be Gravity Man. One child would stand on a rock and point at the sky, and the others would throw themselves on the ground. Laughing, old women who had once crossed the street to avoid him now stopped him to press wrapped lunches into his hands. "You're too thin, Naruto-kun. Eat." They called him Naruto-kun, the same women who had called him demon. He accepted every lunch. He ate every meal. He said thank you in that warm, gentle voice and never once mentioned the past, because that was the point. Justice was not revenge. Justice was the world becoming what it should have been all along. Hinata came into his life the way the tide comes in, with a kind of gentle persistence that not even gravity could resist. She had loved him since the academy. This was not a secret to anyone with eyes, and it was not a secret to Naruto either, because Naruto did not have eyes, but he had observation haki, and Hinata's aura every time she was near him was approximately the temperature and luminosity of a small sun. She was brave about it. Braver than most people understood. Because loving someone from afar is easy. Choosing to close the distance, to stand in front of the most powerful person in the world and say, "I see you," not the power, not the legend, you, that requires a courage that has nothing to do with combat. She brought him food. She arrived at his apartment on a Tuesday evening, carrying a bento wrapped in cloth, her cheeks flushed, her Byakugan deactivated because she did not need it to find him. She could find him by feel at this point. The pull of his presence was a constant in her world, like magnetic north. He opened the door before she knocked. "Your footsteps," he explained, "and your breathing pattern, and your heartbeat. You were nervous on the stairs." I'm always nervous," Hinata admitted. "I know, it is endearing." She thrust the bento forward. "I made this for you. It's onigiri and tamagoyaki, and I made too much and I thought..." "Thank you, Hinata-san." He took the bento. His fingers brushed hers. She went rigid. "Would you like to come in?" She came in. She sat at his kitchen table. He made tea. They ate together. She was quiet at first. The shyness was a wall she had spent years building. But Naruto's warmth was a patient force, and walls cannot stand forever against patient forces. They talked. About the village, about her training, about the Hyuga clan and the changes Neiji's example had inspired. About the war and the things they had lost and the things they had found in the losing. "Your aura," Naruto said during a lull in the conversation. "My aura? I can feel the energy that people carry. Every person has a different one. Aggressive souls burn hot. Anxious souls flutter. Most people's auras are complicated. Layers and contradictions the way real people are." Hinata held her breath. "Yours is the most peaceful thing I have ever felt." Hinata's face turned the color of a ripe tomato. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. Her heart rate, already elevated, spiked to a level that Naruto's observation haki found genuinely alarming. That is. "I mean it," Naruto said. "In 2 lifetimes, across 2 worlds, through war and grief and every kind of darkness, your aura is the first one that makes the weight feel lighter." Hinata nearly fainted. She caught herself on the table. Her eyes were shining. Her hands were trembling. She looked at the blind man across from her. The scarred face, the sealed eyes, the smile that had survived everything the world had thrown at it. And she said in a voice that was barely a whisper but carried the conviction of an earthquake, "I love you, Naruto-kun. I have always loved you." Naruto was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. A different smile than his usual one. Smaller, more private. The smile of a man hearing something he had been waiting for without knowing he was waiting. "I know," he said. "I have felt it for years. Your heart speaks louder than you think." "Then why didn't you?" "Because you deserve to say it in your own time. Some things should not be rushed, not even by gravity." Naruto smiled. "I know," he said. "I have felt it for years. Your heart speaks louder than you think." "Then why didn't you?" "Because you deserve to say it in your own time. Some things should not be rushed, not even by gravity." Hinata laughed, a wet, tearful, incandescent laugh. And then she crossed the kitchen table's worth of distance between them and kissed him. And the gravity in the room shifted, just slightly, just enough that the teacups rattled and the curtains lifted and the dice on the windowsill rolled to 6, because even the universe apparently approved. They walked together after that. Through the village streets in the evening light, her hand in his. She read to him books, scrolls, mission reports, novels with terrible prose that made him laugh. He listened with his whole attention, because listening was what he did best. He taught her to feel the gravity in the earth. They sat together in the training ground at dawn, cross-legged, facing each other, and he guided her awareness downward into the soil, the rock, the molten core, the enormous gravitational heartbeat of the planet itself. "Can you feel it?" he asked. "I feel something, a pull, like the earth is breathing." That is gravity. The pull between all things is what holds everything together. He reached out and took her hand. This too is gravity, the pull between people, the force that says you are not alone, you are connected, you are held. Hinata's Byakugan activated involuntarily. She saw him, not the surface, not the scars, but the deep architecture of his energy. The gravitational field that surrounded him at all times, a constant, gentle, invisible embrace of the world. And at its center, at the very heart of the most powerful force she had ever witnessed, a warmth so profound it made her cry. "You've been holding the whole world together," she whispered, "this whole time." "Someone has to," he said, "and it is easier with company." They married on a spring morning when the cherry blossoms were falling. The wedding was small, Naruto's insistence. He did not want spectacle, he wanted warmth. The ceremony was held in the courtyard of the Hyuga compound, a symbolic choice. The blind boy who defied fate marrying into the clan of all-seeing eyes. The guests were the people who mattered. Team 7, Kakashi, Sakura, Sasuke. Sasuke had returned to the village after a long journey of atonement, quieter now, steadier. The rage burned out and something else growing in its place. He stood at the back of the ceremony and said little, but his aura, which Naruto read with fond attention, was the calmest it had ever been. The Konoha 12 were there. Shikamaru looking bored and moved in equal measure. Ino crying openly. Choji eating. Kiba with Akamaru, both slightly teary. Shino standing perfectly still, a single beetle on his collar that might have been decorative or might have been emotional support. Tenten polishing a kunai. Lee weeping so magnificently that Guy, in his wheelchair, still recovering from the war, joined him in a duet of tears that Kakashi later described as acoustically impressive. Neji stood beside Hinata. He had survived the war, barely, scarred, changed, and he stood as her attendant with the quiet pride of a man who had learned that fate was a story and family was a choice. Iruka sat in the front row. The academy teacher who had given Naruto his first forehead protector, who had treated him with kindness when kindness was rarer than gold. His hands were folded in his lap. His eyes were red. He was trying very hard to maintain composure, and he was failing magnificently, and everyone pretended not to notice. Tsunade officiated. She wore her Hokage robes and a smile that was equal parts joy and exasperation. "We are gathered here to witness the marriage of Naruto Uzumaki and Hinata Hyuga. I could say many things about these two, but I'll keep it short, because I know the groom prefers brevity." Naruto smiled. "The Hokage knows me well." "Shut up, brat! I'm talking." Tsunade's smile widened. Naruto Uzumaki has carried the weight of this village, of the entire world, on his shoulders since he was a child. He has done it with grace, humor, and an unreasonable amount of property damage. Light laughter from the crowd. Hinata Hyuga has carried her own weight, the weight of a clan's expectations, the weight of a quiet love held in patience for years, the weight of being brave when bravery demanded silence instead of spectacle. They balance each other. And balance, as the groom would say, is a matter of gravity. Naruto reached into his kimono and pulled out his dice. He rolled them on his open palm. 6, he laughed. A genuine, full, unguarded laugh, the rarest sound in the world, the sound of a man who had found something lighter than the sky. "The dice approve," he said. Hinata laughed too. Tearful, radiant. She took his hand and held it, and the gravity in the courtyard shifted. Cherry blossoms that had been falling paused for one heartbeat, suspended in the air, pink and perfect and weightless, before settling gently on the shoulders of everyone present. Iruka broke, full sobbing, hands over his face. Kakashi put an arm around his shoulders and pretended his own mask was not damp. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," Tsunade said. "Kiss. That's an order." They kissed. The courtyard erupted. The cherry blossoms swirled, the dice landed on 6 again. Nobody was surprised. Boruto Uzumaki was born on a night when the moon was full and the village was quiet. Naruto sat in the hospital room, his hand on Hinata's arm, feeling her heartbeat, strong, fast, brave. He could not see the labor. He could not see the doctors. He could not see the blood or the sweat or the fierce, determined expression on his wife's face. But he could feel everything. He felt the moment a new soul entered the world. It arrived like a spark, bright, sharp, not immediate, crackling with energy. Naruto's observation haki reached for it instinctively, the way a hand reaches for a candle in the dark, and the soul that met his awareness was loud, alive, reckless, already moving, already restless, already hungry for the world. The doctor placed the baby in Naruto's arms. He held his son, this tiny, screaming, furious creature, red-faced, fists clenched, lungs working at full capacity, announcing his existence to anyone within earshot. Naruto's gravity shifted unconsciously around the baby, a feather-light reduction, just enough to make the child feel cradled by the air itself, held by the world as much as by the hands. "He will be trouble," Naruto said. His smile was enormous. His scarred face was wet with tears he did not wipe away. "Like his father," Hinata said. Her voice was exhausted and radiant. "I was never trouble, Hinata. I was merely gravitationally inconvenient." Hinata laughed and cried at the same time, and Boruto, still screaming, still furious, already troubled, squirmed in his father's arms and reached for the dice that poked from Naruto's kimono sleeve. Himawari came 2 years later. She arrived quietly, a contrast to her brother's entrance that set the tone for everything that followed. Where Boruto had been a shout, Himawari was a whisper. Naruto held her for the first time and went still. Her aura was enormous, vast, deep, the kind of energy that Naruto had only felt a handful of times in 2 lifetimes, the kind that suggested a soul far larger than the body containing it. She was quiet in his arms, her tiny hand curled around his finger. Her breathing was slow and steady. Naruto said nothing. He sat in the hospital chair with his daughter's weight in his arms, a few pounds, barely anything, the lightest thing he had ever held, and felt the gravity of it. The gravity of 2 new souls that he had helped bring into the world, 2 lives that would outlast his, 2 heartbeats that would continue after his own fell silent. He held Himawari against his chest and listened to her breathe. In, out, the rhythm of a new life, steady and unhurried, carrying the promise of everything she would become. "She is deep," Naruto murmured to Hinata, "like still water, like the ocean on a calm day." "Is that good?" "It is rare, and yes, it is very good." Boruto, 2 years old and already running, tried to climb onto Naruto's lap to see his sister. Naruto lifted him with a gentle gravitational nudge, floating the toddler into the air for a moment, eliciting a delighted shriek, and settled him on his knee beside Himawari. "This is your sister," Naruto said to Boruto. Boruto looked at the baby with the intense, suspicious scrutiny of a 2-year-old encountering a rival. Then he leaned forward and kissed her forehead. "Mine," Boruto declared. "Ours," Naruto corrected. Boruto considered this. "Mine too. Close enough." Hinata watched from the hospital bed, her husband, her son, her daughter, wrapped together in a gravity that had nothing to do with physics and everything to do with love, and she thought, this is what peace looks like. This is what it was all for. The years passed. Naruto became Hokage, not because he sought the title. He had never sought titles. But the village asked, and the village had earned the right to ask, and Naruto Uzumaki had never refused a burden that was given honestly. He sat in the Hokage's office, the same office where Hiruzen had puffed his pipe and worried, where Tsunade had drunk sake and cursed, where Minato's portrait hung on the wall in perpetual golden silence, and he felt the village through the walls. Every heartbeat, every soul, every child running in the streets, every old man sleeping on a bench, every shinobi on the wall, every merchant in the market. He carried them, all of them, the way he had always carried them. Boruto grew. He was loud, he was energetic, He was everything Naruto had been as a child, reckless, hungry for attention, desperate to prove himself, and everything Naruto had never been, loved. Surrounded, given every opportunity to succeed, Boruto complained about his father's absences. He resented the Hokage's chair. He wanted Naruto at his games, his practices, his academy events. He did not understand, could not understand, not yet, that his father was holding the sky up so that Boruto could play beneath it. Naruto felt the resentment in his son's aura and accepted it the way he accepted all weight, without flinching, without complaint, with the quiet understanding that some burdens are the price of keeping others safe. But he made time. He always made time. He would appear at Boruto's training sessions, gravity launched from the Hokage Tower, landing silently behind his son, cane sword tapping the ground. Boruto would spin around, startled, and Naruto would smile. Your form is improving. Your right hook drops when you're tired. Keep your guard up. Dad, you can't just appear like that. I apologize. Gravity has poor manners. Himawari was different. She was her father's calm. She sat with him in the evenings on the roof of their home, and they listened to the village together, the sounds, the heartbeats, the rhythm of a living place. She asked him questions about gravity, about justice, about the dice. Why do you always roll sixes, Dad? I do not always roll sixes, Himawari. You do. I've counted. Naruto smiled. The dice respond to conviction. When you know, truly know in your bones that you are doing the right thing, the dice agree. It is less about luck and more about certainty. So you're always certain? I try to be. Certainty is heavy. It is the heaviest thing I carry. Himawari leaned against his arm. That heavier than meteors? Much heavier. She laughed. He wrapped his arm around her shoulders, and they sat together on the roof while the sun set over Konoha, and the village hummed below them like a heart. Naruto was older now. Not old. The years had been kind, the Uzumaki vitality, the remnants of the Nine-Tails chakra, the sheer physical resilience of a body that had caught meteors and compressed gods. All of it kept him strong. His hair was still blonde, though there was silver at the temples. His jaw was harder. His hands were calloused from years of gripping the cane sword. The crossed scars over his sealed eyes had faded slightly, softened by time, but they were still there. They would always be there. He still wore the purple kimono. He still carried the cane sword. He still rolled the dice. It was a clear night. The kind of night when the sky was so wide and the stars so bright that even a blind man could feel their weight, the faint, ancient gravitational pull of a billion distant suns, each one calling to every other, each one holding the universe together through the simple, patient, eternal act of attraction. Naruto sat on the roof of his home. His cane sword lay across his knees. His dice were in his hand. Below, the village breathed. Thousands of heartbeats, warm and alive, safe and sleeping. Boruto's aura, bright, restless, even in sleep, flickered in the room below. Himawari's, deep, calm, enormous, hummed beside it. Hinata's, the most peaceful thing in the world, rested between them, steady and warm, the anchor of a family. He expanded his observation haki, wider than the village, wider than the country. He felt the continent, millions of souls, sleeping, waking, living, loving, fighting, making peace. The shinobi world, scarred and healing, stumbling towards something better. He rolled the dice one final time. They tumbled across his palm, clicked, settled, 6. He tucked them into his kimono. He folded his hands on his cane sword. He tilted his scarred face toward the sky he had carried for so long, the sky he had brought down in fire and held up in mercy, the sky that was clear tonight and full of stars that pulled at each other the way all things pull at each other, gently, constantly, forever. Justice was served, he said to no one. To the night, to the world, to the ghost of the admiral he used to be, and the boy he had become, and the man who held them both together. It was heavy. He smiled. That smile, the one that had terrified Cage and comforted children, the one that had been the last thing enemies saw and the first thing his family woke to, the smile of a blind man who saw everything. It was worth it. The wind blew across Konoha. The cherry trees rustled. The stars burned in their ancient orbits, held in place by the same force that lived in the hands of a man on a rooftop. The dice did not move. Some forces are beyond luck.
And that's it. That's the life of Naruto Uzumaki, the blind boy who caught meteors, crushed gods, and carried the entire world on his back without ever raising his voice. If this story hit different, smash that like button, drop a comment telling me which scene broke you, and subscribe because we have more what-if stories coming that are going to make this one look calm. See you in the next one.